Chapter 31-39. The Taichu generals have an obvious weakness, which is the lack of willpower and soul. Lin Feng recalled the detailed information of the Taichu generals. The demon race was already weak in this aspect, and the Taichu generals were even more biased. Although they were universe rulers, their willpower and soul strength were only equivalent to a pinnacle almighty. If it's bewitchment, then willpower and soul strength are the key. Lin Feng was a master in the soul aspect. Although he had never touched upon bewitchment, his foundation in this aspect was quite solid through the Ether Journal. It's hard to find a flaw in a universe ruler, but almighties might not. Lin Feng placed great importance on this opportunity. If he missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to find clues about the bug race spies in the future. It's here. After a while, the communicator vibrated slightly. Lin Feng received the information from the First Grand Marshal. With the First Grand Marshal's status, it was easy for him to mobilize the army to the 8 vital planets in the Emperor's starfield. Planet Bianzhou, Planet Yin, Planet Gu Sui, Planet Taimeng, basically, all almighties were suspects. The range was very wide. After all, the number of almighties in an army was quite large. Just a single army could have hundreds of them. If a Hongmeng army had entered a vital planet, it would be even more difficult to determine. For example, Planet Taimeng had been entered by the number 71 Hongmeng army, so it could be eliminated. It wasn't that there were no suspects, but there were too many almighties. Lin Feng didn't need to find every bewitched person on every vital planet. Of course, every additional bewitched person would increase the probability. However, nothing was perfect, and the bug race spies wouldn't be so stupid. The requirements to bewitch an almighty might be very high. It might be related to the soul. Lin Feng was very clear about this. The stronger the secret technique, the higher the price. Therefore, the bug race spies wouldn't stop their bewitchment even after the mission was over. This way, there would be one less useful pawn to give up. Gu Sui Star and Bianzhou Star have the fewest number of almighties that have entered their armies in the past 10 years. Among the pinnacle almighties and the limits of almighties, the Gu Sui Star has 7, while the Bianzhou Star has 6. Among the 13 almighties, there is a high probability that at least 1, or even 2, will be bewitched. Lin Feng turned on his communicator for a long time and sent the information of the 13 almighties to the First Marshal. He needed to know their current location. If any almighties were still on planet Gu Sui or planet Bianzhou, they would be the ones who had been bewitched. If he was a spy for the insectoids, he would never have allowed them to leave the vital planet at this juncture. That would be equivalent to confessing without being pressed. As a member of the military, it would be ridiculous for them to leave instead of helping when they saw the insectoids. Therefore, the army of the 8 vital planets must still be in their respective vital planets. The First Marshal knew that this was a serious matter, so he cooperated with Lin Feng as soon as possible. Compared to Lin Feng, the military placed more importance on this matter. They wanted to catch the real mastermind. 3 of them. Among the 13 suspected almighties, 3 of them were still on the 2 vital planets. One of them was on planet Gu Sui, and the other was on planet Bianzhou. Let's go to planet Gu Sui first. Rather than choosing one of the 2 on planet Bianzhou, Lin Feng was more inclined to suspect the only almighty on planet Gu Sui. Plus, in the first round of the universe leader selection, planet Gu Sui hadn't had a Taichu general for 25 years. This meant that the bewitched on planet Gu Sui was definitely almighty. Combining their abilities and the time they entered planet Gu Sui, the general of the 18th Division of the 5th Hongmeng Army, King Qi Sha, was the most suspicious. Location sharing. Lin Feng activated the First Marshal's location sharing. As the commander of the army, the First Marshal could use the special location of the army to find the location of every member of the army. Swoosh! Lin Feng left instantly. Planet Gu Sui was in ruins. More than half of the insectoids had been wiped out, causing great damage. Luckily, Lin Feng had appeared in time and ruthlessly wiped out a large portion of the insectoids. If not, the situation would have been even worse. All the cultivators were full of praise for Lin Feng's actions. Those cultivators who had previously suspected Lin Feng of being an insectoid spy regretted their actions and blamed themselves. What you hear may be false, but seeing is believing. Lin Feng wasn't just an insectoid spy. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Lin Feng and the insectoids were irreconcilable. The battle between both sides was more intense than any other battle. In terms of the number of insectoids killed, Lin Feng alone was comparable to the Hongmeng army. Everyone, let's work together. The insectoids are already at the end of their rope. Let's wipe out the last batch. King Qi Sha held a few battle swords in his hands and slaughtered his way through the insectoid army. His entire body was bathed in blood. The emblem of a general on his body was very eye-catching. The cultivators of planet Gusui were happy to follow the army and fight against the insectoids. In terms of experience in fighting against the insectoids, no force could compare to the army. Under King Qi Sha's leadership, the insectoids' disadvantage was becoming more obvious. Soon, they would all be wiped out. King Qi Sha. Lin Feng hovered in the air and looked at this three-headed, six-armed man. His combat strength was very strong, and his sword technique realm was also very high. The insectoids couldn't even touch his body and were killed by his sword energy. In terms of sword technique realm, he was above Lin Feng. He didn't look like someone who was bewitched. He didn't hold back when killing insectoids. He could even be said to be the most ruthless killer. However, these insectoids were all sent to their deaths. Through the portal, a batch of insectoids were sent to their deaths. Since that was the case, it didn't matter who killed them. To the insectoids, it didn't matter how many ordinary insectoids died. As long as there was enough energy, they could quickly breed more insectoids. There's something wrong with his soul. Lin Feng's ability was much higher than King Qi Sha's. One was only an ordinary almighty, while the other had a Hongmeng golden body. A perfect Hongmeng golden body was the power of a world master. Lin Feng's Hongmeng golden body wasn't perfect, but it was at the level of an ultimate universe master. Moreover, Lin Feng's attainments in the soul were quite high. Lin Feng spent a lot of effort to improve the foundation of the Ether Journal. It could be said that Lin Feng's current attainments in the soul were comparable to an ultimate universe master's ether. Even in the Hongmeng Ocean, Great Lich Ether was one of the top in the soul. He was indeed bewitched. Lin Feng hid his aura, so King Qi Sha couldn't sense him. A mere almighty, even a pinnacle almighty, was far from Lin Feng's realm. Moreover, bewitched people were usually very weak in the soul aspect. This time, I must find a mastermind. Lin Feng instantly approached King Qi Sha and directly used his soul attack to kill him. Since he had confirmed that he was the one who had been bewitched, there was no need to hesitate. Ether Soul Breaker. Chapter 3140. Dominator Rank Hongmeng Secret Technique. Lin Feng's self-created soul attack secret technique, Ether Soul Energy Breaker, although it was only a first-grade energy breaker that had just entered the Dominator rank, its power was already above that of a Grand Mist secret technique. Killing the Taichu Yuan general was still a universe dominator. If it wasn't for the fact that the Taichu Yuan general was in a self-destruct state and his soul defense was weak, he might not be able to kill him. However, if the target was an almighty and not an almighty who was proficient in the soul, the effect would be completely different. Boom! In just an instant, Ether Soul Energy Breaker broke through the Qisha King's soul defense. His soul defense Hongmeng source item couldn't stop it at all. It was a secret technique from Great Lich Ether and had the ability to pierce through the internal universe. In an instant, it was as if an arrow had pierced through everything and stared right into the Qisha King's weak soul. Wu, opening his eyes wide, the three-headed and six-armed Qisha King's movements suddenly stopped. His body trembled and his 6 eyes turned blood red. He was bound by an invisible force and was desperately struggling. Surrounded by the Zergs, the Qisha King couldn't react at all. Of course, even if he faced Lin Feng in his normal state, he would still die. The golden Hongmeng power was dazzling. Lin Feng's soul power was fully revealed. The reason why he used Ether Soul Energy Breaker secret technique wasn't to kill the Qisha King, but to obtain information that he wanted. Inside the Qisha King's soul, there was a layer of faint red light. That's it. This layer of red light enveloped the Qisha King's soul like a burning flame. The energy was extremely pure, no less than Lin Feng's. However, it was as thin as a piece of muslin, and the thickness of the energy could be broken with a single poke. Even so, breaking through this layer of red light still used up a lot of Lin Feng's soul power. In the next moment, the remaining bit of soul power directly shattered the Qisha King's soul and destroyed it. Chi. The Qisha King was stunned, in the void as if he had been petrified. In an instant, the insectoids around him devoured him. The cultivators around him cried out in alarm. Many of them rushed to save the Qisha King, but it was too late. The defenseless Qisha King could not resist the Zerg's devouring. In fact, he was already dead. After receiving Lin Feng's merciless soul attack, the Qisha King had no way of surviving. Lin Feng would not show mercy to bewitch people like this. As long as there was a trace of the bewitching power remaining, they would self-destruct just like the Swanee Taichu Yuanjiang. When that happened, the surrounding cultivators would suffer heavy casualties. It's this soul aura. Lin Feng had discovered this when he attacked the Taichu general with his soul. However, the Taichu general was in a state of self-destruction. When his soul attack broke through the Taichu general's soul defense treasure and came into contact with his soul, the Taichu general had already self-destructed. The horrifying might of the self-detonation caused even his soul energy to explode. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't receive any information that time. However, this time, the Qisha King didn't have time to self-destruct. Or rather, he didn't even notice Lin Feng's existence. Everything went smoothly. To a certain extent, soul energy was more important than one's appearance because the latter could be hidden and changed. However, soul energy was even more difficult to hide than life energy. It was the most direct and fundamental existence of a cultivator. It's done. Lin Feng carefully sensed soul energy. After cultivating and mastering the ether journal, Lin Feng had a deep understanding of the path of the soul. Lin Feng could clearly sense soul energy from the life energy emitted by cultivators at the same level as him. Without a doubt, this thin layer of red light that burned like a flame was the Zerg spy's soul energy. Just as Lin Feng had thought, the Zerg spy was not in Zerg. The Zerg couldn't possibly have such soul energy. Moreover, this soul energy was very strong. Very strong. Although Lin Feng didn't want to admit it, based on the red flame outside the Qisha King's soul, the Zerg spy's complete soul energy was stronger and stronger than his. Therefore, being able to use a secret technique to control almighties or even universe rulers was extraordinary. In Lin Feng's estimation, such soul energy was probably already at the level of a world lord. Could it be that she really isn't Marshal Wali Hongmeng? Did I misunderstand her? Lin Feng had interacted with Marshal Wali Hongmeng before. Although he couldn't sense soul energy from her life energy didn't have such soul energy. Moreover, Marshal Wali Hongmeng's soul energy wasn't that strong. She couldn't possibly be a world lord. Yes or no, I'll know once I see her. Now that he had solid evidence, Lin Feng didn't stay any longer. He immediately went to protect the Star Wheel. The Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe was protecting the Star Wheel. It was like a thin layer of blades, dragging a long tail of light spots, guarding the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe. For countless eras, the army was the Taichu's strongest protective talisman. On the surface and in the dark, the army was protecting the Taichu. "Greetings, sir," they shouted respectfully in unison. Lin Feng stepped into the Star Wheel. He, who had made great contributions in the milieu to our realm, had been given a special status in the army by the first marshal. His status was higher than that of the Taichu generals and was second only to Marshal Hongmeng. He could enter and exit the Star Wheel freely. No one dared to stop him. "Where's Marshal Wali Hongmeng?" Lin Feng asked. "The Star Wheel command room, sir," one of the generals said respectfully. He looked at Lin Feng with reverence in his eyes. It was obvious that he had recognized this great hero, Lin Feng, who had galloped across the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe and quelled the insect disaster. The army was different from the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe. The army recognized Lin Feng's status and the first marshal had praised Lin Feng's achievements in the army. Everyone in the army knew that Lin Feng was the nemesis of the insect race. Lin Feng's prestige in the army was comparable to that of the 8 Hongmeng marshals. "Can you take me there?" Lin Feng didn't know where the Starwell command room was. "It's my pleasure." The general smiled and raised his hand respectfully. "Sir, this way, please." Then, under the envious gazes of the other generals, he led Lin Feng into the Star Wheel. Azir is so lucky to have such close contact with Senior Lin Feng. I'm so envious. I'm Senior Lin Feng's loyal fan. I know his deeds like the back of my hand. Who isn't? It's funny that those guys in the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe slandered Senior Lin Feng. They don't know how powerful Senior Lin Feng is. Even the first marshal and the second marshal admire him. I wish they would ostracize Senior Lin Feng. That way, Senior Lin Feng can officially join our army. Hey, by the way, why is Senior Lin Feng looking for Marshal Wali Hongmeng? I don't know. It shouldn't be a small matter. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3141. The Starwheel command room was connected to the various cabins of the Guardian Star Wheel. One could directly enter the Guardian Star Wheel through teleportation channels. If the Guardian Star Wheel was compared to a huge warship, then the Starwheel command room would be the core of the warship. The first marshal had been stationed in the Miluo Tua territory for a long time. The command of the Taichu Origin Chaos Universe had originally fallen to the second marshal. However, the Miluo Tua territory had encountered an insect tide, and the second marshal had gone to reinforce it. After that, the second marshal had been responsible for assisting the other 4 factions to resist the insect race outside the Miluo Tua territory. He had not returned to the Guardian Star Wheel. In the military system, the army god was the leader. Under him were the first and second marshals, and then the 8 Hongmeng marshals. Now, the 8 Hongmeng marshals had suffered heavy casualties, and the remaining were fighting in the Miluo Tua territory. Marshal Wali Hongmeng had performed well during the insect plague and was heavily injured. Thus, he had temporarily stayed behind to support the Guardian Star Wheel. He has great power. Lin Feng was shocked. It would be a lie to say that he was not worried. If Marshal Wali Hongmeng was really an insect spy, the consequences would be unimaginable. The entire Taichu's defense would be useless, and it was very likely that there would be backups everywhere. Lady He Li is inside. R stopped and said respectfully. Lin Feng arrived in front of a massive bronze disc. Ancient runes covered the disc, and vigorous grand mist energy flowed out from it. Faintly, one could sense the grand mist loss. Even if Lin Feng attacked with all his strength, he might not be able to break this bronze disc. While he was observing, a green light suddenly appeared in front of him. Following Arza's surprised gaze, a crack appeared in the middle of the huge bronze disc. The green light blossomed, and the huge bronze disc seemed to split into 2, splitting apart. Lord Lin Feng, Lady He Li already knows of your arrival. She invites you in, Ar said happily. Lin Feng replied softly, but he was also surprised. What was Marshal Wali Hongmeng trying to do? Did he really not care? Or did he have a backup plan? I want to know if she's a human or a ghost. Lin Feng was bold, and he directly stepped in. In the entire Taichu, there were not many cultivators who could truly threaten him. His eyes lit up. The green light dissipated, and the huge bronze door closed. Lin Feng entered the Starwheel command room and was greeted by a fiery red figure. Her face was as cold as ice, and she nodded slightly when she saw him. Marshal Wali Hongmeng. What a rare guest, Sir Lin Feng. Marshal Wali Hongmeng did not act high and mighty. His expression was calm and composed. Marshal Wali Hongmeng. Lin Feng also smiled and nodded. He sensed the life aura of Field Marshal Wali Hongmeng. The soul aura contained within seemed different from what he had sensed from the Qisha King's soul. Sit, Marshal Wali Hongmeng said casually. Lin Feng sat down. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Although it was a little unexpected, if Marshal Wali Hongmeng really was not an insectoid spy, Lin Feng would still be happy. After all, to the military, any Hongmeng marshal was a valuable asset. However, it was still too early to say. In Lin Feng's heart, Marshal Wuli Hongming was still very suspicious. "May I know why Sir Lin Feng has come to see He Li this time?" Marshal Wuli Hongming asked. "It's nothing. It's just that an insectoid plague suddenly broke out in the Taichu Imperial Star Field and swept across 9 vital planets. I wonder if the military has received news before," Lin Feng said. "9." Marshal Wuli Hongming was slightly surprised. "Weren't there 8? Lin Feng smiled and said, "There was one that landed on the Emperor's Star, but before the insectoids could break through the formation, he was killed by me, including Marshal Swanee Taichu, who was bewitched by the insectoids." Lin Feng deliberately said the number 9 because he wanted to test Marshal Wuli Hongming. Insectoid spies would naturally assume that 9 vital planets were attacked, but if they were not, they would only know that 8 vital planets were attacked. However, Marshal Wuli Hongming's performance here was flawless, without any flaws. Marshal Wuli Hongming was shocked. Marshal Swanee Taichu was a spy for the insectoids. No. Lin Feng shook his head. His soul was controlled, and he was in a state similar to losing his mind. He was bewitched and controlled by the insectoids, and he was unable to control himself. In the end, he even self-destructed to end his life. "What a pity," Marshal Wuli Hongming muttered. Everything seemed so natural. Lin Feng's gaze was fixed on Marshal He Li and Hongming. Even the slightest change in her expression was captured by Lin Feng's eyes. Lin Feng would not miss any abnormal fluctuations in her emotions or suspicious behavior. However, Marshal Wuli Hongming's performance was too normal. Everything was like a Hongming marshal who had just received the news. There were no flaws. Even the aura of her soul was different from that of Qi Sha King, whom he had killed with his soul. The faint layer of red flame outside her soul seemed to have nothing to do with her. Also, Marshal Wuli Hongming's aura was indeed only at the pinnacle universe dominator level. Did he misunderstand her? Wait, could it be that Marshal Wuli Hongming was not a spy for the insectoids, but someone who had been bewitched like Marshal Swanee Taichu? This thought suddenly popped into Lin Feng's mind, and his heart trembled. Marshal Swanee Taichu could have been bewitched, and Marshal Wuli Hongming could have been bewitched as well. Their power was only one level apart, and the one who was controlling Marshal Swanee Taichu could very well be a world master. If his soul was strong enough, and his secret technique was profound enough, why couldn't he have bewitched Marshal Wuli Hongming? And there was a period of time when Marshal Wuli Hongming had been very weak. Shua. Lin Feng stared at Marshal Wuli Hongming. He wanted to find some flaws from her expression and demeanor, but Lin Feng couldn't sense any abnormalities with just the aura of her soul. Marshal Wuli Hongming was different from Qi Sha King. One was a universe dominator, while the other was only a great being. Even though the internal universe of a great being was mature, it wasn't perfect. However, the internal universe of a universe dominator was self-contained and perfect. It was already not bad to be able to sense the aura of the soul, but to sense it accurately was impossible. When he had met Marshal Swanee Taichu, Lin Feng also couldn't sense any abnormalities with his soul. For Marshal Wuli Hongming, it was even more impossible. "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" Marshal Wuli Hongming looked at Lin Feng with a smile that wasn't a smile. "No, I just suddenly felt that the aura left on Marshal Swanee Taichu's soul is similar to yours, Marshal Wuli Hongming," Lin Feng said calmly. His aura suddenly increased. "What do you mean?" Marshal Wuli Hongming's eyes flashed. "Sir Lin Feng, are you trying to say that you are suspecting me?" "Yes, I am suspecting you." Lin Feng didn't play by the rules. Like a sharp dagger unsheathed, he pointed it at Marshal Wuli Hongming. Since he was suspicious, why did he have to be so sneaky? Everything was perfect, and he couldn't find any flaws. He might as well lay all his cards on the table. Intuition told Lin Feng that there was something wrong with Marshal Wuli Hongming. Chapter 3142. So, what does Lord Lin Feng want to do? Marshal He Li and Hongming appeared very calm. The red battle clothes were like flames. She didn't deny it or admit it. She looked straight into Lin Feng's eyes and didn't look guilty at all. "Excuse me." Lin Feng's hand flashed. Snow jewel shone brightly, and golden Hongming energy swirled around it. If he couldn't tell from the surface, he would have to do it during the battle. If Marshal Wally Hongmeng was really a spy from the bug race or someone who had been bewitched, she might accidentally reveal some flaws during the battle. Shua. Marshal Wally Hongmeng's eyes flashed. She didn't do anything and continued to look at Lin Feng quietly. Destroy. Lin Feng was direct and efficient. His small world incarnation enveloped the area, and he didn't conceal his killing intent at all. The Battle Saber Snow Jewel condensed golden Grand Mist energy, and it instantly shattered the Grand Mist laws as it went straight for He Li and the Grand Mist Marshal. With his current power, he could easily defeat a top-tier universe ruler. If he used all his strength, Lin Feng could even fight against an ultimate universe ruler, such as Pope. However, Marshal He Li and Hong Meng didn't have the slightest intention to fight. Her expression didn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. Her beautiful eyes stared at Lin Feng's saber without even blinking. "Brother Lin, please show mercy." A green light flashed behind him, and the second marshal's anxious voice could be heard. "Come." The blade in Lin Feng's hand stopped right above Marshal He Li's head. The golden power of primordial chaos had already cut through his armor. He Li was just a hair's breadth away from killing Marshal He Li, but he had stopped in that instant. Swoosh! The second marshal's figure appeared and quickly separated Lin Feng and He Li from Hong Meng. "We're on the same side. Let's talk nicely. Don't fight." The second marshal smiled bitterly. Marshal Wally Hongmeng smiled and looked at Lin Feng with her beautiful eyes. "It's just that Lord Lin Feng is itching to spar with He Li." Lin Feng sheathed his battle blade, Snow Jade. As expected of Marshal Wally Hongmeng, Lin Feng is impressed. "This matter will end here. See you again." Lin Feng was decisive. He nodded at the second marshal and left without looking back. Before meeting Marshal Wally Hongmeng, Lin Feng was only 80% certain that he would succeed. Now, he was 99% certain that he would succeed. There must be something wrong with Marshal Wally Hongmeng. There was no evidence, only intuition. She was too calm. She was so calm that she seemed to have everything under control. Everyone was like her chess pieces. Even when Lin Feng revealed his killing intent and Snow Jade was about to land on her head, her expression didn't change at all. Even if a Marshal Hongmeng was innocent, she would still resist or at least dodge in such a situation. After all, once the blade landed, there was no mercy. You couldn't tell if someone really wanted to kill you or if they were just testing you. However, Marshal Wally Hongmeng didn't have any intention of dodging at all. Either she was born with pride and would protect her reputation even if she had to die, or she was hiding a very powerful trump card, so powerful that she wasn't afraid of him at all. He Li isn't a stubborn cultivator who would protect her reputation even if she had to die. Although he hadn't interacted much with He Li and Marshal Hongmeng, he could tell that she exuded confidence from her bones. For such a cultivator, if you wrongly accused her and attacked her indiscriminately, she would not compromise, nor would she reason with you. Instead, she would fight you head-on, even if she was weaker than you, even if she was a woman. The second marshal's appearance might not have saved Marshal Wally Hongmeng. "It's me." From the layer of red light outside the Qisha King's soul and the control she had over Marshal Taichu, Lin Feng deduced that the cultivator who had bewitched the army had a soul strength that had reached the level of a world lord. On top of that, Marshal He Li and Hongmeng's calm and collected composure, as if victory was within their grasp. Lin Feng believed that she was the Zerg spy, the mastermind behind everything and the mastermind behind everything. Her strength was much more terrifying than what everyone had seen. "She didn't make a move because she was afraid of me." All the cultivators in the army knew that Lin Feng had entered the Starwheel command room. So did the first and second marshals. Once they made a move, Marshal Wally Hongmeng's identity couldn't be hidden, unless she purposely lost to him. Otherwise, her identity would be exposed even if she showed that she was as strong as him. Unless her life was in danger, Marshal Wally Hongmeng's calmness was the best solution, especially when the second marshal was beside her. "It's her." Lin Feng came out of the Starwheel command room. He felt relieved. Killing the Zerg spy was important, but he didn't have to do it now. He might not be able to kill her. If he made a move without confidence, he might suffer a double loss. At least, he now knew her identity and where she was. She was in the light, not in the dark. After what I did, both the first and second marshals will be wary. They won't let Marshal Wali Hongmeng hold a high position anymore. They will pay more attention to her. If Marshal Wali Hongmeng wants to do something, it won't be so easy. Although I don't know what you're planning to do. Since you're working with the Zergs, you can't escape the Zergs' fixed pattern. Take root, reproduce, and devour the universe. I won't let you have your way. Lin Feng didn't know how to deal with Marshal Wali Hongmeng. However, Lin Feng was very good at dealing with normal Zergs, even if they were big yin worms. There were signs of Zerg appearing in the 15th and 16th sub-universes. It was obvious that they were Marshal Wali Hongmeng's next target. It was difficult to hide from the Zergs. There were many cultivators in the sub-universes, and the Heavenly Tao and the Zergs were sworn enemies. There was a God's Inquisition in every sub-universe. Although Lin Feng despised the God's Inquisition, it was undeniable that the God's Inquisition was an executor of the Heavenly Tao. They had some achievements in protecting the universe. Since you don't want to expose yourself, then keep hiding. Let's see if the Zergs can reproduce faster or if I can kill them faster. Lin Feng entered the 15th sub-universe through the teleportation formation. Although the Taichu Inquisition had something to do with Lin Feng, there were no eternal enemies in the world. There were only eternal benefits. Even if the Taichu Inquisition didn't want to work with him, the other three forces wouldn't miss out on Lin Feng, the Zerg's nemesis. As long as he absorbed black, Lin Feng would be able to find super black and then big yin worm black. Lin Feng was familiar with the process. He only spent a little time to uproot the Zergs in the 15th sub-universe and kill a big yin worm. He was very efficient. Chapter 3143. Taichu, the protector of the star wheel. Pa, the Hongmeng origin crystal in her hand shattered. Hongmeng's energy dissipated. Marshal Wali Hongmeng's face tensed up. Her fiery red battle armor burned like fire. Her eyes were cold and sharp. She was no longer calm. Damn it, we failed again. Killing intent flashed past Marshal Wali Hongmeng's eyes. She could sense that the insectoid's plan had failed again. The 15th and 16th sub-universes were infiltrated by her. She had used her authority to arrange for them. It took her hundreds of eras. However, Lin Feng's plan was completely destroyed in just a few decades. Ever since the insectoids, 3 big and insects were killed by Lin Feng, they spent a lot of time to recover some of their vitality. 3 more big and insects were born and infiltrated into 2 sub-universes. They originally planned to attack together and make it hard for the Taichu cultivators to deal with them. However, they were in tears now. Out of the 3 big yin insects, only 1 big yin insect was left. If it wasn't hiding outside, even this big yin insect would have been caught. How did he do it? Marshal Wali Hongmeng couldn't understand. She frowned. It's not easy for us to find the insectoids, but he can easily turn them upside down. Annoyed. Ever since Lin Feng barged into the Star Wheel's command room, Marshal Wali Hongmeng had been in trouble. Her position as the commander-in-chief of the Taichu was taken back by the second marshal before she could even warm up. On the surface, she said that she was the deputy commander and was under only one person. However, in reality, she was under the second marshal's control. If she did anything out of line, the second marshal would know immediately. She couldn't easily deploy her troops and arrange for the insectoids to infiltrate the sub-universes and bewitch the cultivators. The current situation could be described as difficult to move forward. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed him that day. Marshal Wali Hongmeng's beautiful eyes shone fiercely. A golden W shape appeared between her eyebrows. It contained powerful energy. The air around it fluctuated wildly, as if it could destroy everything. The power of a world lord. Lin Feng's guess was not wrong. Marshal Wali Hongmeng did indeed have the power of a world lord. If they had really fought that day, Lin Feng would have been doomed. However, Marshal Wali Hongmeng did not make a move. Killing Lin Feng would not benefit Marshal Wali Hongmeng at all. Her identity was far more important than Lin Feng's life. However, Marshal Wali Hongmeng was now regretting her decision. Lin Feng was like a bug in her eyes. Although he was not a threat to her, His constant buzzing in her ears was very annoying. A bloody light flashed in his eyes, but Marshal Wally Hongmeng was suddenly stunned. Her beautiful eyebrows knitted together, and her breathing quickened. How is this possible? How did he discover the third big yin insect? This is infuriating. Marshal Wally Hongmeng was hysterical. It was hard for her to remain calm. It wasn't easy for a big yin insect to be born. It was formed from the combination of a time-devouring insect emperor and a space-splitter insect king. The failure rate was very high. There was only a 10% chance of a big yin insect being born. For hundreds of eras, Marshal Wally Hongmeng had used her power and position to open the back door for the bug race. She had spent a lot of resources and only managed to raise 3 big yin insects. Losing the bug race's commander had a huge impact on the bug race. Now that the Taichu was killing the bug race, it did not give them any leeway at all. It was not easy for the bug race to improve, but now it was back to square one. This made Marshal Wally Hongmeng want to vomit blood. When Lin Feng's figure appeared in front of her, Marshal Wally Hongmeng did not hide her anger and killing intent. She could not wait to tear Lin Feng into pieces. Don't let me catch you, Lin Feng. Damn it. The Desolation Secret Realm was ranked 27th in the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe. Its danger level was above average, and it was located between the 15th and 16th universes. It was very popular among the cultivators of the 2 sub-universes. My luck is not bad. Lin Feng stood in the void, at the core of the Desolation Secret Realm. This place was very hidden, and almost no cultivators would enter. It was like the core of Homing's 1,000 Perception Mountain. However, there was a big yin insect blackboard hidden here. Lin Feng, the 4 super forces outside the Desolation Secret Realm, and the tens of thousands of cultivators in the Desolation Secret Realm did not expect that there would be bug race in the depths of the Secret Realm. Hiss! Lin Feng quickly absorbed the energy of the great yin insect blackboard. With his current strength, absorbing a mere great yin insect blackboard was nothing. He didn't need to take the great yin insect blackboard away. To Lin Feng, this was precious energy. Not only could it improve the Hongmeng golden body, but it could also nourish and improve the universe golden heart. Lin Feng, whose universe golden body and universe golden soul had both reached 100 times, was very eager to improve the universe golden heart. Similarly, he had to reach the limit of 100 times to meet the requirements to upgrade the Hongmeng elemental body. Big brother, how did you guess that there was a big yin insect here? Shi Wanli was very curious, and the Yuan behind him also showed a curious expression. Lin Feng was sweeping the bug race, and they were bored to death, so they followed him. Lin Feng also needed Shi Wanli. His flying speed was very useful to Lin Feng, saving him a lot of energy. I was just guessing. Lin Feng smiled, because there are big yin insects in the 15th and 16th sub-universes. Even with Marshal Wally Hongmeng as a spy, the bug race would not be able to leave through the teleportation formation openly. To the bug race, it would be best not to expose themselves. Hence, I guessed that the bug race's nest might be between the 15th and 16th sub-universes, so I thought of the Desolation Secret Realm. However, it's all thanks to you that I was able to find the bug race. Shi Wanli was not only fast in flying, but his vision was also top-notch. He was also a mental cultivator, so it was indeed impressive for him to be able to find the tiny bug race while flying at high speed. This was something that Lin Feng could not do. It was because Shi Wanli found the bug race that Lin Feng was able to find the big yin insect step by step. He was not being humble when he said that it was all thanks to Shi Wanli. He had almost missed this big yin worm. Hee hee. Shi Wanli smiled proudly. Right now, the bug race is probably very depressed. After losing 3 big yin insects in a row, their vitality has been greatly damaged. Lin Feng nodded lightly, more than 100 eras. At normal speed, they should be able to breed 1 big yin insect, but because Marshal Wally Hongmeng is in charge, he gave the bug race convenience. So the bug race was able to breed even more big yin insects. However, I estimate that they can only breed around 3 at most. This time, after successfully killing 3 big yin insects, the bug race will be depressed for a period of time. The bug race. Who did it offend? It had escaped from the milieu to a realm with great difficulty, but it was dealt a heavy blow by Lin Feng. After learning from his painful experience, it had just managed to breed 3 billion insects, but in the end, its 100 years of cultivation was destroyed in one move. It was too tragic. Post-air, share. Chapter 3144. The bug race had suffered great losses once again, and Lin Feng had also taken this opportunity to improve. However, he was restricted by the strength of a Yuan Venerate and had reached the limit in many aspects. It was difficult for him to improve further, such as his physical body, soul, internal universe, and so on. It would be easy for Lin Feng to become an almighty. He could even seize the will of the heavenly great path in Universe 7, just like the primal chaos Tao Lord of the 5 great worlds. The latter had seized the great change first universe and made a name for himself. Lin Feng had already condensed the primordial golden body, and he was stronger than Chaos Tao Lord of the same level in all aspects. If he possessed Universe 7, he would be comparable to Chaos Tao Lord. After becoming the ruler of the universe, he would be stronger than him. The will of the heavenly great path in Universe 7 had tried everything to stop Lin Feng back then. Now, Lin Feng had a 99% chance of success if he wanted to seize the body. However, Lin Feng now had a higher goal. He wanted to seize the will of the heavenly great path in the Taichu origin chaos universe. He had the opportunity to become the strongest person in the Hongmeng Ocean. He had the opportunity to come into contact with the Hongmeng nomological laws of the Hongmeng Ocean. He had the opportunity to reach the top of the pyramid of strength. Why not try? Lin Feng longed for challenges and had the heart of a true powerhouse. Is there any way to quickly accumulate wealth? A large amount of it? Lin Feng was currently in the residence of the sky-bearing Star Lord. The matter of the bug race was over, and the Emperor's star domain had returned to peace. All sorts of guesses about Lin Feng had also faded away. A large amount of wealth? The sky-bearing Star Lord and his wife, Empress Luoyin, looked at each other in surprise. From their point of view, Lin Feng shouldn't be short of money. Yes, a lot. Lin Feng did not hide it. He did need a lot of Hongmeng origin crystals to absorb and strengthen his Hongmeng gold body. Previously, he had handed over all his assets to the sky-bearing Star Lord to deal with and exchanged them for Hongmeng origin crystals, which had only increased his Hongmeng gold body from 32% to 38%. It was too little. Although it was not necessary to strengthen the Hongmeng gold body to 100% to form the Hongmeng origin body, the higher the degree of completion, the higher the chance of transformation. Moreover, the transformed Hongmeng origin body would also be stronger. There was only one chance. Once the internal universe was formed, it would be almost impossible to transform the Hongmeng Yuan body. This was the case for Shi Wanli. For a Hongmeng physique to transform into a Hongmeng golden physique was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Roughly, how much is it? Sky-bearing Star Master gulped. He could vaguely guess the amount Lin Feng wanted. This was because not long ago, he had helped Lin Feng deal with a large number of treasures, which were enough to rival the wealth of multiple Ultimate Universe Masters. However, the amount of wealth he could exchange for was still not enough to satisfy Lord Lin Feng. At least 10 times more than before, Lin Feng said directly. The bearing Star Lord grimaced. What Lord Lin Feng wanted was most likely the wealth of a World Master. Actually, Lord Lin Feng, have you considered joining one of the superpowers? Sky-bearing Star Lord asked tentatively. As long as Lord Lin Feng asks, although it is difficult for the superpowers to obtain such a huge amount of wealth, I believe they will be willing to offer it. If they could absorb Lin Feng into their own superpowers, the 5 superpowers would definitely not be stingy with their wealth. Moreover, if Lin Feng became stronger, wouldn't he be able to bring them along and make their superpowers even more famous? The army. Even if Lin Feng wanted to join, he would only choose the army. It was impossible for him to join the Taichu Inquisition. He did not have much interaction with the other 3 superpowers. Only the army had deep cooperation and understanding with each other. However, the army was currently in a mess. The army is not that rich. Empress Lian's soft murmur could not escape Lin Feng's ears. Sky-bearing Star Lord was also helpless. His wife was speaking the truth blindly. Among the 5 superpowers, the richest is the Geo Group, followed by the Heavenly Swamp Alliance, followed by the Dalian Palace, and ranked last is the Army. Sky-bearing Star Lord said truthfully, the Army does not have many assets and profits, and it has the most soldiers. Although it is not considered to be unable to make ends meet, the Army's treasury has always been tight. It is barely enough to support itself. I'm just saying. Lin Feng smiled. His understanding of the Army was no less than Sky-bearing Star Lord's. Even if he really joined the Army, it would not be because of money, but because of the Army's beliefs. However, his status as a special expert in the Army was not bad. He was used to freedom, and Lin Feng did not want to take on too many responsibilities. For example, protecting the Taichu. He still wanted to possess the Taichu. With Lord Lin Feng's strength, if you really want to earn money, entering the depths of the top 10 secret realms and obtaining some natural treasures and Hongmeng origin items is the best choice. If you're lucky, you can obtain a Hongmeng origin item or even a sovereign Hongmeng origin item. Even if you can't obtain such an item, you will at least have a stable income. The more you work, the more you get. You can slowly accumulate wealth. Lin Feng nodded. In short, the lower limit was not low, but the upper limit was also limited. However, he was pressed for time, and he did not have so much time to spend there. If he was unlucky, he might not be able to earn enough wealth even after hundreds or thousands of years. Right? Is the corpse of the Diyin insect valuable? Lin Feng suddenly remembered. The corpses of the great multiplication worms that he had absorbed from the golden lumps and the golden cosmic pouches could perhaps be sold for a trash price. Complete. The Sky-bearing Star Master's eyes gleamed. Lin Feng shook his head. Light flashed in his hand, and a huge corpse appeared in the Sky-bearing Star Master's residence. Although it had been dead for a long time, the corpse of the Diyin insect still had a great amount of energy. Good fellow. The Sky-bearing Star Master took a deep breath. Beside him, Empress Luo Yan's body split into 10 and observed the Diyin insect from different angles. Her beautiful eyes fell on the missing Diyin insect. Madam, what do you think? The Sky-bearing Star Master looked at Empress Luo Yan. She was much better at this than he was. According to my knowledge, the corpse of a grand multiplication insect has practically never been auctioned in the primordial ocean. Even though it's missing the 2 most important parts, the other parts of the grand multiplication insect are extremely precious as well. If you properly advertise it, you ought to be able to sell it for a price equivalent to a few almighty primordial artifacts. Shua. Lin Feng's eyes gleamed. It was more valuable than he had imagined. The Diyin insect was, after all, a universe dominator level creature. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. It wasn't surprising that it could fetch a high price. Then I'll have to trouble the Star Master to help me deal with it. Lin Feng didn't stand on ceremony. Under the shocked gazes of the Sky-bearing Star Master and Empress Luo Yan, he took out the corpses of the Diyin insects one by one. Instantly, the entire residence was filled with corpses. 10, 20, 30, 40. Seeing Lin Feng take out the corpses of the great multiplication insects as if he was picking up trash, the shocked gazes of the heavenly bearing Star Master and Empress Luo Yan had already become overwhelmed with shock, and they were completely stunned on the spot. These were the Yin insects, a monster that could create a terrifying insect plague. Lord Lin Feng alone had killed so many. Chapter 31:45. Lin Feng had no use for the corpses of the Diyin insects. He had already given the one he promised Mushan. The rest of the corpses took up space in his storage space. To Lin Feng, the only valuable parts of the Diyin insects were the Golden Universe sack and the Golden Universe sack. Of course, the Diyin insects were more effective. However, all of them had been absorbed by Lin Feng. Lin Feng actually hoped that there would be more insects. That way, he would be able to continuously absorb them and strengthen his Hongmeng gold body. Too many, Empress Luoyan muttered. She was constantly calculating the various ways to sell them. She had a serious expression. If we sell them all at once, the value of the individual insects will decrease. However, if we sell them one by one, it will take a long time. I am not in a hurry. I will try my best to maximize the profits. Lin Feng knew that it was difficult to have the best of both worlds. He was not in a hurry to strengthen his Hongmeng Gold body. After all, he had not reached perfection in other aspects. The strengthening of the Hongmeng Gold body was more about the accumulation of energy. There was not much difference if he strengthened it earlier or later. There were many ways to increase his strength. There was no need to lower the value of his wealth. All right, Lord Lin Feng. I understand. Empress Luoyin sighed. She was really afraid that Lin Feng would want to sell more and sell them well. If that was the case, she would have a headache. Luckily, Lord Lin Feng was easy to get along with. He was very kind. Now that there was no time limit, she could slowly advertise with the appetite and slowly sell them one by one. She could also sell them at a high price on the surface and sell them at a lower price secretly to other cultivators. She could even do them a favor. Who would have thought that there would be more than 50 Diyin insects? Empress Luoyin had too many of such methods. She was very experienced. She had been managing the Emperor Star's auction house since a long time ago. Empress Luoyin had contributed greatly to the Bearing Star Lord's current status. Since this matter was handed over to Empress Luoyin, Lin Feng did not plan to waste any more time. He asked, "Do you know where the best place to train one's willpower is?" Tempering the will? Sky Bearing Star Master smiled, as though a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. That's simple. Emperor Star Master has the most advanced technology to strengthen and sharpen one's willpower in virtual battles. The highest level one can reach is the Universe Ruler level. Lin Feng shook his head. His willpower had already materialized and shrouded his internal universe. It had reached the level of a world lord and was a golden willpower. Ordinary technology to sharpen his willpower was useless to him. Lin Feng didn't explain too much. He looked directly at the Bearing Star Master, and instantly his eyes shone brightly. The golden power of Hongmeng swirled around him. The Bearing Star Master felt his soul tremble, and his expression changed. The Lin Feng in front of him seemed to have suddenly changed from a docile beast to a violent and powerful one. At that moment, it was as if he had transformed into a small boat in the middle of endless waves, on the verge of collapse. If not for the fact that Lin Feng didn't have any killing intent, just the pressure of his will alone would have been enough to make the Bearing Star Lord suffer. Golden will. Empress Luoyin's eyes widened as she watched from the side. Her mouth opened so wide that it could swallow a great multiplication insect whole. A world lord. The Bearing Star Master staggered back 2 steps and stabilized his body. His breathing was rapid, and he didn't dare look directly at Lin Feng. The moment his willpower collided with Lin Feng's, he seemed to have seen Fan Zhu. It had nothing to do with his internal universe or strength. It was just the pressure of his willpower. Sir Lin Feng, don't tell me that you still want to strengthen your willpower? The Bearing Star Master didn't know what to say. He couldn't possibly tell Sir Lin Feng that his willpower was already unparalleled and unrivaled in the Hongmeng Sea, so he didn't need to strengthen it anymore. Yes, Lin Feng answered affirmatively, causing the Sky Bearing Star Lord's heart to shatter. A Yuan Venerate possessing the willpower of a world lord was already terrifying enough. What was even more terrifying was that he still wanted to improve it. How could a universe lord like him endure this? The Bearing Star Master was deeply affected. However, he could see that Sir Lin Feng was serious and wasn't joking with him. Sir Lin Feng really wanted to improve his willpower. The question was, what was a willpower that surpassed that of a world lord? Although I don't know Sir Lin Feng's true intentions, the Bearing Star Master sighed. Sky Bearing Star Master took a deep breath and calmed himself down. However, if a universe master wants to increase his willpower, he will only head to one place. Oh, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. The Dual Pole Pagoda Realm, the Bearing Star Master said. Its full name is the Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda Realm. It is located in the center of the Hongmeng Sea. Even almighties can't get close to it. Only a universe lord can withstand the pressure and enter the Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda region. The Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda really exists. Lin Feng shuddered. The Hongmeng world was only a miniature of the Hongmeng Sea. It was an illusory world. Since there was a Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda in the Hongmeng world, there would naturally be one in the Hongmeng Sea in the real world. However, Lin Feng's authority wasn't that high, so he didn't know about it. The Dual Pole Pagoda realm is located in the Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda region. The closer you are to the Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda, the stronger the pressure and the higher the willpower requirement. I believe the place should be suitable for you, Sir Lin Feng. The Bearing Star Master smiled, but he sighed at his heart. The willpower of a world lord. He was afraid that the Dual Pole Pagoda might not be suitable for Lin Feng. However, the Bearing Star Master couldn't get too close and didn't know what the limit of the Dual Pole Pagoda was. However, he heard that the World Lord was also training in the Dual Pole Pagoda, so the willpower of a World Lord shouldn't be the limit of the Dual Pole Pagoda. No matter what, if Sir Lin Feng wanted to improve his willpower, he could only go there. Thank you. What are the conditions to enter? Lin Feng asked. The teleportation array outside doesn't have the coordinates of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda region, but the 5 superpowers do. Sir Lin Feng can enter through the army's teleportation array, the Bearing Star Master said. Okay. Lin Feng smiled. Then I'll have to trouble you too for the other matters. After saying that, Lin Feng bowed slightly and left. Lin Feng didn't have such a deep need to improve his willpower, but he needed to strengthen the golden heart of the universe. After absorbing 3 more golden lumps and a golden universe sac, in addition to the amplification of the Hongmeng gold body's energy, the golden heart of the universe had reached 55 times. However, it was still some distance away from 100 times. This wasn't just a necessary condition to transform the Hongmeng origin body, but it was also the most important thing for a mental cultivator. This included the future possession of the Taichu origin chaotic universe's will of the heavenly path, as well as the mental cultivation secret technique by * defying heart technique. The stronger the golden heart of the universe, the better. It was affected by willpower and also existed independently. It wasn't easy to improve it. On the other hand, the accumulation of the Hongmeng gold body's energy was only a matter of time. It wasn't too difficult. Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda. Lin Feng had long wanted to see it with his own eyes. This was the most mysterious and also the most powerful existence in the Hongmeng Sea. He could feel its colossal existence in the Hongmeng world, as if it had surpassed the Hongmeng Sea. He wondered what the real Hongmeng Dual Pole Pagoda would be like. I'm looking forward to it. Lin Feng stepped on Shi Li's back. His blood seemed to be boiling. Chapter 3146. The Taichu Inquisition, the Pope thought. Lin Feng is heading to the Twin Towers of Hongmeng. After the previous plan failed, Pope was having a headache over how to deal with Lin Feng. He couldn't help but be startled when he heard the news. This was a sudden piece of good news. In Taichu, he had tried both soft and hard methods, but they all ended in failure. After that, he had thought of many methods, but he rejected all of them. The chances of success were not high. Lin Feng was too difficult to deal with. The reputation of the Taichu Inquisition had been greatly affected in order to solve the problem of Lin Feng, especially after they had slandered Lin Feng as an insectoid spy. In the end, they had gone for wool and come home shorn, causing other cultivators to have an even worse impression of the Taichu Inquisition. Yes, the news is reliable. The Candlelight Guardian God's long hair fluttered in the wind as he revealed a smile. Lin Feng went there through the army's teleportation array, accompanied by his second brother, Shi Li. They have already arrived. The Sword Protector frowned. Is he here to help fight against the Underworld clan? It doesn't look like it. The Candlelight Guardian God said, this information is sealed. Even the 5 superpowers don't know much about it. Moreover, Lin Feng seems to be looking for the Twin Towers in Hongmeng. He must be here to hone his will. The Sword and Drunken Protectors nodded. If there really were reinforcements, they would naturally enter the dimensional passageway at the first possible moment. The Netherkill clan's recent attacks have not been fierce. The dimensional passageways are generally calm and stable, especially the 3rd dimensional passageway that our Taichu is in charge of. It is calm and safe. Pope was one of the main guardians of the 3rd dimensional passageway, so he naturally knew about it. If the situation was dire, he would immediately rush back to the 3rd dimensional passageway. The Candlelight Guardian deity smiled. Lin Feng is now a peak Yuan venerate and close to breaking through to become an almighty. For a cultivator like him to become an extraordinary almighty, the requirements for willpower must be extremely high. Only the willpower of a universe master can enter the dual pole tower realm to train oneself. If one's willpower is insufficient, sword kill, protector frowned. Lin Feng's willpower has long been at the universe ruler level. Pope had exchanged blows with Lin Feng before, so he was the clearest about this. However, Pope wasn't sure exactly how strong Lin Feng's willpower was. After all, Lin Feng had never used willpower before. But what was certain was that the will of the universe's ruler was definitely there. Is he trying to use the will of a universe ruler to attack the will of a world master? Drunken guardian god couldn't help but mutter. Very likely, Pope said, Lin Feng himself is a mind cultivator. If he can condense the will of a world lord, his strength will increase tremendously, and it will be natural for him to become a powerful being in the future. However, I have never heard of a Yuan venerate achieving the will of a world master. The candlelight guardian god smiled confidently. No matter what his goal is, and whether he succeeds or not, this is definitely a great opportunity for us. Homing's Twin Towers area is the best place to strike. This kid is a huge threat. Although Pope was wearing a calm mask, one could feel the seriousness and solemnity under the mask. I have never seen the will of the heavenly great path so anxious about a cultivator. As Lin Feng's strength increases, the threat he poses will increase with each passing day. Now, the will of the heavenly great path is almost as fearful of him as the bug race. He must be eliminated. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Taichu Inquisition will no longer have a place to stay in the future. In the center of the Hongmeng Sea, endless Hongmeng energy lingered around a towering pagoda. The pagodas seemed to be made up of two halves, and the energy was different and fluctuating. The pagoda was shrouded in a thick fog, and the ancient golden vein patterns were like coiling dragons that contained great power. The real Hongmeng's Twin Towers. As soon as he entered the Hongmeng's Twin Towers area, Lin Feng saw this unreachable existence. Even from an endless distance, he could feel its tyrannical and invincible power. This was a colossal object that could even destroy the Hongmeng Sea. No wonder only the will of a universe master can enter. Hongmeng's Twin Towers had the ability to seal. If one's will was slightly weaker, they would be completely suppressed by the Hongmeng's Twin Towers and be unable to move. The surroundings were chaotic, and the energy was scattered and fragmented. The Hongmeng laws were also unstable. Lin Feng could understand that with a monster like the Hongmeng's Twin Towers, it would be too abnormal if this place was still normal. There are many universe masters here. Although the chaotic fog here was dense and Hongmeng was overflowing with energy, Lin Feng could sense many powerful auras. He could sense no less than 10 of them. There were at least 100 universe masters here. The Hongmeng's Twin Towers area was where all the universe masters of the Hongmeng Sea gathered. Not only the Taichu, but also the cultivators of Tai Su, Tai Yi, and Tai Chi origin would come here to train their wills. The higher one's cultivation, the more one would know the importance of will. Especially in order to become a world lord, willpower was an indispensable part. Let's walk around first. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to cultivate. It would not be too late for him to slowly cultivate after familiarizing himself with the environment. 100,000 Li had been teleported here together with Lin Feng. At this moment, he was also in human form. He looked around curiously. Although the will here was very strong, Sherwan Li's will was also comparable to that of a universe master. Lin Feng had a rough understanding of the Hongmeng's Twin Towers area from Tian Chung Star Master. This was an area with the Hongmeng's Twin Towers as the center. The closer one was to the Hongmeng's Twin Towers, the stronger the pressure. It was very demanding on one's will. It said that no cultivator has ever touched the Hongmeng's Twin Towers. Is that true? Sherwanli stared at the Hongmeng's Twin Towers that pierced through the sky. Lin Feng strolled amidst the chaos, and thick fog surrounded him. I've asked the first marshal, and it's true. It said that there's no space or time around the primordial dual polarity pagoda. It's as if there's another dimension and dimension. It's impossible to pass through. It's that powerful? Sure, Wanli had an exaggerated expression. That's what the first marshal said. However, he hasn't seen it before, so he can't get too close to the Hongming's Twin Towers. Lin Feng said, the Hongming's Twin Towers area is like a whirlpool, and the Hongming's Twin Towers are the center of the whirlpool. Once you enter the center of the whirlpool, you'll disappear. Sure, Wanli thought for a long time. Then why can one enter the Hongming's Twin Towers in the Hongmeng world? Lin Feng shrugged. I'm not sure about that. The Hongmeng world is very special. I don't know what kind of existence it is. Also, the Hongming's Twin Towers in the Hongmeng world and the one I'm seeing now feel the same, but they're also very different. I can't really put my finger on the difference. However, there's one thing that's very similar. No cultivator can get close to the Hongming's Twin Towers in the real world. Similarly, no cultivator can reach the top of the Hongming's Twin Towers in the Hongmeng world. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 31:47. Lin Feng didn't know if the two were related. However, there was no doubt that Hongming's dual polarity tower hid a huge secret. At least, Lin Feng couldn't decipher it now. Perhaps one day, when Lin Feng reached the top of Hongming's dual polarity tower, he would know a thing or two. Perhaps Hongming's dual polarity tower had a super almighty? Otherwise, who captured the 108 divine generals in the investiture of the gods? Perhaps Hongming's dual polarity tower had a top-level AI? Otherwise, where did the Hongmeng set, Dominator set, and various Hongmeng source items come from? Or perhaps Hongming's dual polarity tower itself was a treasure trove? There were too many possibilities. However, no cultivator could truly come into contact with the Hongming's dual polarity tower. In the Hongmeng Sea, the Hongming's dual polarity tower was like a high and mighty emperor that no one could touch, including the 5 world masters. This place is so big. Sherwan Li and Lin Feng strolled together and looked around. I can't even tell which is which. The surroundings were chaotic and foggy. It was easy to get confused after walking for a long time. Aren't there some coordinates? Lin Feng pointed at the Hongming's dual polarity tower in the middle. It looked very clear, but in reality, it was quite far away. Hongming's dual polarity tower was divided into Hongji Tower and Mengji Tower. Its structure was exactly the same as Hongming's Hongmeng dual polarity tower. From the engravings on Hongji Tower and Mengji Tower, one could tell where it was. After all, Hongming's dual polarity tower wouldn't move. Oh, right. Sherwanli laughed. He had been staring at Hongming's dual polarity tower, but he didn't think of this at all. Speaking of which, big brother, do you feel the pressure? Well, pressure? Not yet. Lin Feng smiled. Sherwanli pursed his lips and looked away. He swallowed the words he wanted to say. It's all right. I'm just taking a stroll. We'll find a place to cultivate later. Lin Feng could feel what his second little brother, Sherwanli, was thinking. Ever since they left the transmission array, the pressure of the 2 extreme pagoda world had become increasingly strong, and the requirements on ones will have become increasingly high. Along the way, many universe masters had focused on tempering themselves. Although Sherwanli was a mind cultivator, he was still a powerful being. His willpower was still slightly lacking, so this place was already a little difficult for him. The dual polarity pagoda realm had north and south ends, with the boundary between the Hongji Pagoda and the Minji Pagoda as a boundary. The boundary that extended out was the dual polarity pagoda realm. Because the power of Hongming's twin towers was too strong, both the Hongji Tower and Mengji Tower would affect the environment they were in, causing instability in all aspects, increasing the risk of tempering one's will. On the other hand, on the straight line extending from the boundary point, the stability was the highest and the risk was the lowest. This was the dual polarity pagoda realm for tempering one's willpower. Other than the dual polarity pagoda realm, there was also the Hongji Pagoda realm and the Minji Pagoda realm, which extended from the center of the Hongji Pagoda and the Minji Pagoda respectively. They were located on the east and west sides of Hongming's twin polarity pagoda. Compared to the stability of the dual polarity pagoda realm, the stability there was slightly inferior, but it was still better than other places. Besides, the Hongji Pagoda realm and the Minji Pagoda realm were suitable for universe masters who specialized in one path. Other than tempering one's willpower, other aspects could also be improved. Second brother, have you noticed that although the primordial chaos laws here are scattered and unstable, they seem to have been separated from the complete primordial chaos laws, which makes them easier to comprehend? Lin Feng was currently at the location of the Great Extreme Sector, and there were quite a number of universe masters here. Oh, I can feel it, but I don't have much talent in this area. Sherwanli was honest. Although he was a mind cultivator, he focused more on the path of the physical body. Comprehending the Hongmeng laws wasn't his forte. Lin Feng smiled. Here, he could clearly sense the existence of the Hongmeng laws of destruction and the Hongmeng laws of destruction. Compared to the 5 origin realms, the Hongmeng laws here were more complete and vast. It was easier to find the laws he could sense the most to comprehend. However, while comprehending the Hongmeng laws here, he also had to pay attention to his willpower. In the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda region, there would be pressure on his willpower no matter where he was. The only difference was the stability of the space and pressure. I'll return to the dual polarity pagoda realm to temper my willpower. Sherwanli wasn't interested in comprehending the Hongmeng laws at all. He tilted his head and looked around, curiously sizing up the universe masters from the other origin chaos universes. What about you, brother? I haven't decided yet. To be more precise, Lin Feng wasn't here to temper his willpower. Instead, he was here to improve his golden heart of the universe. It was closely related to willpower, but there were some differences. Lin Feng had no idea how to improve it. He had to try every possibility. He didn't have any precedents to learn from. Across the entire Taichu, there wasn't a single mind cultivator who was stronger than him. Lin Feng could only rely on himself to find a path. Increasing the golden heart of the universe from 55 times to 100 times was actually quite difficult. Currently, Lin Feng had no idea how to do it. All right, 100,000 Miles glanced at Lin Feng from the corner of his eyes and sighed in his heart. This was the will of a world lord. Even in this place, his expression didn't change and his heart didn't skip a beat. Thinking about the torment he was enduring right now, the invisible pressure from the primordial bipolarist pagoda was suffocating him. Compared to his brother, he was indeed far inferior. Sherwanli blinked and gazed into the distance. Through the dense mist, he seemed to see something unusual. He was surprised. What's wrong, second brother? Lin Feng followed Sherwanli's gaze but couldn't see anything. There seems to be something strange there. Big brother, let's go take a look? Sherwanli, who had finally suppressed his curiosity due to the willpower pressure, became restless again. All right, Lin Feng wanted to explore anyway. He wouldn't miss this opportunity. In terms of sensory ability, he was much stronger than Sherwanli. However, in terms of vision, the gifted Sherwanli was much stronger than him. As they slowly approached, Lin Feng also felt something unusual. A very strong force. It came from a deep white light in front of them. It seemed to be a powerful restriction. The Hongmeng origin crystal was flashing and sealing off a small area. Something seemed to be happening inside. Through the white light restriction, Lin Feng could faintly feel an extremely strong restlessness. His heartbeat quickened, but he couldn't feel anything. There's something there that makes my heart palpitate. Lin Feng's intuition told him that this white light restriction wasn't simple. There might be a big secret hidden inside. With light steps, Lin Feng gradually approached the deep white light. The closer he got, the stronger the palpitations became. Lin Feng had an impulse to break the white light restriction and see what was going on. Suddenly, whoosh, the white light faded away, and a bright 5-colored light appeared. From the white light, a barbarian giant wearing 5-colored battle armor appeared. His entire body flowed with primordial chaos energy, and he revealed a sunny smile. The curved horns of light hanging down from his head sparkled like stars. Seeing Lin Feng, the barbarian giant couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Taichu Lin Feng, the fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3148. King Meng of the Wilderness. Lin Feng bowed slightly and greeted him. The giant in 5-colored armor was famous in the Hongmeng Ocean. He was known as the Master of the Sixth World. He was as powerful as a world master, but he was only an ultimate universe dominator. Army God was also as powerful as a world master, but he was not as powerful as Savage King Ming. He was the most powerful being in the Hongmeng Ocean. Lin Feng recognized such a powerful being. Besides, he had seen him more than once in the Investiture of Gods. Tai Su and Amon were often in the top 3. I was wondering who was approaching my restriction. It's you. Savage King Ming looked at Lin Feng with a smile. He was not angry at all. He admired Lin Feng. I'm sorry, Lin Feng apologized. He was curious, but he forgot that he was in the Twin Towers of Hongmeng. It was normal for other powerful beings to set up restrictions to prevent them from being disturbed. It was impolite to disturb them. Haha, I thought something happened to the Taichu. Savage King Ming waved his hand and said casually. The Taichu. Lin Feng was surprised. He did not understand what Savage King Ming meant. Was there any connection between Savage King Ming and the Taichu? Why would he say that when Lin Feng approached his restriction? Could it be Savage King Ming patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said, "You're in the wrong place"? The Taichu's dimension channel is on the opposite side, and the Hongmeng Twin Towers is on the other side. Tai Su is in charge of the dimension channel here. Dimension channel, Tai Su. Lin Feng faintly understood and sorted out his thoughts. Thank you, Meng Meng. Lin Feng bowed slightly and said, sorry to disturb you. Okay. Savage King Ming nodded and didn't say anything more. He went back into the restriction formation, muttering, the Taichu is really desperate. They even brought Lin Feng, the future star of hope, here. TSK. The other side, Lin Feng looked at the twin towers of Hongmeng from afar, already having a rough idea of what was going on. It seemed that the secret he had always wanted to know was the reason why the top powerhouses of the Hongmeng Sea had gathered here. Lin Feng and 100,000 Li circled around the primordial dual polarity pagoda and went to the other side. Although Lin Feng did not know what the dimensional passageways represented, it seemed that every primordial chaos universe was responsible for one of them. If that was the case, then the cultivator in charge of the Taichu should be Fan Zhu. It wasn't hard to find. The twin towers of Hongmeng were not small, but they weren't big either. Since he knew the approximate area from Savage King Ming, Lin Feng quickly found a similar restriction formation. It was slightly different from the one set up by Savage King Ming. The Taichu's restriction formation was dim, and it faintly revealed a powerful attack. It was like a huge shield, ready to counterattack at any time. Whoosh! Lin Feng approached the restriction formation and emitted the golden power of Hongmeng. The golden light enveloped the restriction formation, instantly causing a strong energy fluctuation. In just an instant, a huge force appeared, and an arm stretched out from the restriction formation, trying to capture Lin Feng. Hong! The law of Hongmeng was used. The golden power of Hongmeng collided with the blue crystal arm. It was as if he had collided with a divine weapon. The powerful impact forced Lin Feng to take a few steps back, and he slowly stabilized himself. Whoosh! A huge figure appeared from the restriction formation, like a giant coming out of a small house. As the giant appeared from the restriction formation, its body couldn't help but expand until it covered the sky. For eyes, blue hair, thick and sturdy arms that shone with a blue crystalline light. Lines of exquisite magic patterns covered the surface of his body. His arms and legs were filled with explosive power. Looking down from above, he gave off an extremely strong pressure. The blue crystal arm that had attacked Lin Feng earlier had clearly come from his figure. Junior Lin Feng greets leader Tianze. Lin Feng naturally recognized the top expert of the Taichu, the ultimate ruler of the universe in charge of the Tianze alliance. Since the Taichu was in charge of the dimensional channel here, it wasn't surprising to see Leader Tianze here. Oh, Leader Tianze clearly recognized Lin Feng, and his originally cold and fierce gaze instantly softened. He nodded and sized up Lin Feng. Why are you here? It's just a coincidence. Lin Feng then told him about meeting Meng Wang of the Wilderness. If not for Meng Wang of the Wilderness reminder, he wouldn't have known that the top expert of the Taichu was here. He would probably be cultivating in the dual polarity tower realm, looking for a way to improve his golden heart of the universe. I see. Leader Tianze slowly shrank his body. Although he had shrunk a lot, he was still huge. Lin Feng was like a tiny dot in front of him. The demonic runes on his body glowed brightly. Since I came here by accident, there's no harm in learning more. Leader Tianze said seriously, this calamity concerns the entire Hongmeng Sea. All the experts of the four origin chaotic universes have come. With your current strength, you're qualified to know about this. Come with me to see Fanzu. Leader Tianze raised his hand, and a passage appeared in the restriction formation. He took the lead and entered. Lin Feng immediately followed. There was another world inside the restriction formation. The area outside was affected by the dual polarity tower of Hongmeng. It was like a huge magnet that constantly exerted a powerful suction force. However, the area within the restriction was affected by another piece of magnet rock. It was like a huge whirlpool with a different, smaller whirlpool. That little magnet should be the dimensional passageway. Lin Feng thought to himself. If that was the case, the white light restriction formation he had encountered earlier should have been the same in Tai Su's place. Looking at Leader Tianze, Lin Feng had another question in his mind. Since this calamity involved the entire Hongmeng Sea, why did Leader Tianze say that all the experts of the four origin chaotic universes had come? Weren't there 5 origin chaotic universes? But Lin Feng didn't ask because he would find out soon enough. After seeing Fanzu, the laws of Hongmeng have been weakened. Space and time are becoming more and more unstable. Lin Feng felt the changes in his surroundings. As he approached the dimensional passage, there were even more strange phenomena. There seemed to be a powerful space in the distance that was attracting him. He gradually approached. The dimensional passage also gradually revealed its true appearance. It was like a monster that lay across the void. The white and transparent light contained a vast amount of power that completely devoured the surrounding space, forming a void that was similar to the void. It contained a powerful energy that was even more difficult to destroy. It was only 300 meters in diameter. It was very small, but this dimensional passage gave Lin Feng a feeling of fear. Come in. Everyone is inside. Leader Tianze shrank his body again. Like a giant entering a mushroom house, he took the lead and entered. A faint layer of light appeared on the surface of his body, resisting the power of the dimensional passage. Okay. The golden Hongmeng power curled up, and Lin Feng instantly entered. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3149. Oh. After entering the dimensional passageway, he could no longer sense anything outside, as though he had entered a different dimension. Lin Feng was astonished by the disappearance of the surrounding energy, and his eyes instantly lit up. 6 figures entered his vision. Including Leader Tianze, there were a total of 7. The most eye-catching person was naturally the old man, with a long purple beard and elegant robes. He had his hands behind his back and a kind smile on his face. He had the demeanor of an immortal and stood aloof from worldly affairs. Lin Feng felt a sense of familiarity and closeness from him. Junior Lin Feng greets Fanzu. Lin Feng respectfully bowed. Fanzu had saved his life. If not for Fanzu's rescue, he would have been possessed by the Mountain Core. How would he have been able to obtain the world incarnation of the Mountain Core? Lin Feng had always been grateful to Fanzu. However, he had never had the chance to meet him. There was still a strand of Fanzu's will energy within his body. Now that he saw Fanzu, he naturally felt a sense of closeness, as though they were connected by blood. Little friend, there's no need to be so courteous. Fanzu gave a faint smile. Extending his left hand, he placed it on Lin Feng's arm. In an instant, Lin Feng felt his body become empty, and the connection between them disappeared. It's been a long time since we last met. Your progress is still as fast as ever. Senior's praise is too much. Lin Feng knew that Fanzu had extracted a strand of his will energy. Back then, he had left it behind to help Lin Feng overcome his difficulties. Now, he no longer needed it. Gently stroking his long purple beard, Fanzu gave a clear smile. How could he not know if he was praising him too much? A strand of his will energy was in Lin Feng's body. Fanzu was the clearest about Lin Feng's progress. However, he was unable to leave while guarding the dimensional passageway. Therefore, he was unable to sense Lin Feng through the dimensional passageway. Now, everything was in his heart. Since you're here, let this old man introduce you. Fanzu chuckled. This is the army god, the head of the army. Greetings, army god. Lin Feng bowed. We're on the same side. Don't mention it. The war god was clad in black armor, and his eyes were bright. One look, and one could tell that he was an old-fashioned and righteous man. However, when he saw Lin Feng, he gave a rare smile and spoke politely, surprising the other cultivators around him. It's not like you. Ajun Chairman Egio blinked. The war god snorted and glared at the chairman for a long time without explaining. However, Lin Feng knew that the war god was amiable and approachable because he had helped the army quell the insect plague. There's no need for Fan Zhu to introduce me. Just give me face and call me Big Bro. Chairman Egio narrowed his eyes. There was a small tuft of golden hair on his head, which made him look very strange. Big brother, Lin Feng said politely. The name of the chairman of the Ichijia group was like thunder to the ears. Hee. Chairman Egio seemed to be very happy. He waved his hand and took out a strange purple amber. As your older brother, I can't be stingy. This purple amber will be a greeting gift. How can I accept this? Lin Feng refused immediately. Although he didn't know what kind of treasure this purple amber was, if the chairman of the Ichijia group took it out, it must be something extraordinary. Take it, little brother. The bar-browed Taoist next to Chairman Egio chuckled. This guy is the richest among us. He's even richer than Fan Zhu. A piece of purple amber is nothing to him. Then I'll accept it. Lin Feng thanked him. Thank you, big bro. You're welcome. Chairman Egio chuckled. Brother Lin Feng, if you're interested in joining a force in the future, you must come to the Ichijia group. Other than the chairman position, you can choose anything else. I thought you had a conscience today. You're so generous. It turns out you have another purpose. The bar-browed Taoist smiled and said to Lin Feng, Little brother, if you're interested, you can come to the Daoyin Palace. The treatment is no worse than the Ichijia group. Chairman Egio rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. Okay, Lord of the Daoyin Palace. Lin Feng recognized the leaders of the 5 super forces. The Lord of the Daoyin Palace was also quite easy to recognize. He had long brows, golden white hair, and a black and white Taoist robe, which contained the image of the 8 trigrams Taichu. He was one of the rare humans among the masters of the Taichu universe. These 3 are the Tongtian Tao masters of the Dao Yin Palace. The Lord of the Dao Yin Palace introduced them one by one. Tongtian Tao Master, Tongxin Tao Master, and Bodhisattva Tao Master. Greetings, little friend Lin Feng. The 3 Tongtian Tao Masters bowed. Greetings, Tongxin Tao Master, Tongxin Tao Master, and Bodhisattva Tao Master. Lin Feng returned the greeting. Tongtian Tao Master in the Daoyin Palace was like a general in an army or a guardian in the Taichu Inquisition. Tongtian Tao Master, Tongxin Tao Master, and Bodhisattva Tao Master were all pinnacle masters of the universe. Of course, they were much weaker than ultimate masters of the universe like Leader Tianze, Chairman Egio, and the Lord of the Daoyin Palace. There are some who aren't here. I'll introduce them later. Fan Zhu said. By the way, Lin Feng, how did you find this place? Did you get the news from Pope? Pope? Lin Feng was slightly dazed. Right? The leaders of the 5 super forces were all here, so Pope should be here too. But then again, he should still be in the Taichu. Planning how to deal with him? No, Fan Zhu, Leader Tianze said. Brother Lin Feng originally planned to come to the Dual Polarity Tower sector to train his willpower, but he happened to meet Savage King Meng Wang and got the news. I see. Fan Zhu was enlightened. He looked at Lin Feng. So you don't know what exactly happened, Lin Feng? Please tell me, Fan Zhu, Lin Feng said honestly. Fan Zhu nodded and stroked his long beard as if he was thinking about something. After a while, he said, This time, it's a catastrophe that affects the entire Hongmeng Ocean. It originated from the Mingsha clan, which is very good at fighting. They perfectly combine their bodies and souls to unleash amazing power. The Mingsha clan pursues the limit of power and endless fighting. This is the meaning of their existence. For hundreds of millions of eras, the Hongmeng Ocean has fought with the Mingsha clan countless times. There were countless casualties, including many world lords. Of course, The Mingsha clan's 9 Hells Kings also died. Unlike the insect race, the Mingsha clan only pursues a carefree battle. They have no interest in occupying the Hongmeng Ocean. But this time, it's a little strange. Fanzu looked deep into the dimensional passageway. They spent a lot of resources to build 4-dimensional passageways. The 9 Hells Kings led their generals, marshals, and Hell Masters to charge and break through the dimensional passageways and kill their way into the Hongmeng Ocean. They died time and time again. They won't give up until they reach their goal. Now, the Tai Yi, Tai Su, and Tai Chi origin chaotic universes are guarding the 4-dimensional passageways with us. However, as the dimensional passageways continue to expand, the advantage of defense will be exhausted. Soon, we will face the Mingsha clan head-on. The catastrophe is coming. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3150. Then, Fanzu told Lin Feng a lot of information about the Nether Killer race, giving him a clearer understanding. The Nether Killer race was located in a different dimensional world from the Hongmeng Sea, and so was the Bug race. It was quite difficult to enter another dimensional world from one dimensional world. Either the dimensional world was connected, or one had to enter through a dimensional channel. The dimensional passageway was equivalent to building a bridge from one life planet to another in a star field. It was extremely difficult, not to mention the energy consumed by the dimensional channel. Just finding another planet in the vast star field was like finding a needle in a haystack. However, some dimensional worlds were connected to another dimensional world. For example, the Hongmeng Sea and the Bug world. Our Hongmeng Sea is connected to the Bug race's dimensional world? Lin Feng was shocked. Thinking about it carefully, he had already seen the signs. When he first joined the army, he had taken on many cleanup missions. The Bug race's attack on the Hongmeng Sea was not something that happened in just 1 or 2 eras. The Bug race had been attacking the Hongmeng Sea for countless eras. The Bug world and the Hongmeng Sea's dimensional distance has been changing. Some are close while some are far, just like 2 planets orbiting a star. Leader Tian Zhe explained, when the distance between the 2 is close, the Bug race can easily enter the Hongmeng Sea. So that was it. Lin Feng was enlightened. Can we enter the Bug world? That won't do. The Daoyin Palace master laughed. The so-called close distance is relative. In fact, this dimensional distance is much farther than going from one origin chaotic universe to another origin chaotic universe. If we enter the dimensional space, we will definitely get lost. Lin Feng was puzzled. If that's the case, why won't the Bug race get lost? They're a bunch of foodies. They are born with the instinct to find food. President Yi Jiu mocked. This is a race that is completely driven by instinct. There is no need to worry about them getting lost in the dimensional space. Even if they don't find us, they can find other dimensional worlds. Foodie, Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. It was a very apt description. Then how is the dimensional channel built? Lin Feng was curious. In order to construct a dimensional passageway, one must first be able to withstand dimensional energy. Fanzu's purple beard fluttered in the wind as he gently spread out his arms. Lin Feng, calm your heart and carefully sense the dimensional energies through the dimensional passageway's barrier. Lin Feng nodded. He could clearly feel a very powerful force, far more powerful than Hongmeng's energy. Generally speaking, one would need to reach the level of a world lord in order to withstand dimensional energy. Fanzu looked towards Lin Feng and gave a clear smile. If it's you, you should be able to do so when you're an almighty. Wuji Dao Master, when Xian Dao Master, and Bodhisattva Dao Master all looked at him with envy. They were all pinnacle universe masters, yet they couldn't withstand the power of dimension. As long as Lin Feng broke through to become a powerful being, he would be able to withstand it. The gap between them was too big. Then, through your will, you can search for existences in other dimensional worlds. Fanzu said, it must be the will of a world lord or above. Otherwise, you won't be able to enter the dimensional space. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and in an instant, a layer of faintly discernible golden light appeared. Is that so? Yes. Fanzu wasn't surprised. The moment Lin Feng entered the dimensional passageway, The traceable he left in Lin Feng's body had already understood everything about Lin Feng. As a world lord, Fanzu naturally had a will of his own. Ordinary formless wills couldn't survive in a cultivator's body. Only a will of his own could be formless and yet materialize. How can this be? Golden will. Impressive, Brother Lin Feng. President Egeo, the Daoyin Palace Master, the War God, and leader Tianze were all shocked. The three heavenly master, Dao masters of Daoyin Palace, were even more ashamed and full of admiration. A Yuan Venerate actually had the will of a world lord. It was too shocking. Among the four ultimate universe rulers, President Egeo and the Daoyin Palace Master hadn't reached this level. In an instant, President Egeo looked at Lin Feng with a gentle gaze. He couldn't wait to recruit Lin Feng. Other powers will be quickly consumed in the dimensional space, but the will of a world lord won't. However, searching for and sensing will also consume a certain amount of willpower, Fanzu said. The dimensional space is vast, and the dimensional world is small. It's too difficult to search. Lin Feng somewhat understood. It was like standing on an isolated island in the vast ocean and looking at the existence of another isolated island. Of course, one's eyesight had to be good enough first. However, according to what Fanzu said, the dimensional space wasn't something the ocean could compare to. To be precise, it was like standing on a grain of sand and looking for another grain of sand. As long as one has perseverance, there will always be a chance to try one's luck, right? Lin Feng said. Fanzu nodded. The probability is less than 1 in a billion. However, if one is focused on searching, given the lifespan of a world lord, one can still find it, especially when the two-dimensional worlds are close together. The dimensional world and the dimensional space was like water in the ocean. It was constantly flowing. World lords also have lifespan. Lin Feng was surprised. President Egeo looked at Lin Feng curiously. Everyone has lifespan. You have it, I have it, universe rulers have it, and world lords also have it. Isn't everyone's lifespan the same as the lifespan of the dimensional world? Lin Feng scratched his head. That was true. Fanzu said, according to the guesses of us 5 world lords, the lifespan of the Netherkill clan in the dimensional world might be nearing its end. Therefore, the Netherkill clan is frantically searching for another dimensional world. They won't give up until they reach their goal. Otherwise, given the temperament of the Netherkill clan, they wouldn't be interested in occupying a dimensional world. Lin Feng nodded. Such a reasoning was also reasonable. Previously, the Netherkill clan had also built a dimensional channel to the Hongmeng Sea, right? Lin Feng asked. Fanzu replied, there were a few times, but nothing came of it in the end. I don't know if the Netherkill clan gave up on their own, or if the distance between the two-dimensional world increased and they could no longer maintain the dimensional channel. Dimensional channels had a distance limit. The distance depended on the world lord who built the dimensional channel. It was like a rubber band that was constantly stretched. When the distance was too far, the rubber band would naturally break. But it's different this time. Fanzu's expression was solemn. The Netherkill clan has built 4 dimensional channels in a row. Furthermore, the dimensional channels are constantly being reinforced. This means that the world lord who built the dimensional channels still has energy to spare. Currently, the distance between the Hongmeng Sea and the Netherkill dimension world must be very close. Is the combat power of the Netherkill clan very strong? Lin Feng was a little curious. It has been 100 eras. If they are really much stronger than us, they should have conquered the Hongmeng Sea by now, right? That's not the case. Fanzu shook his head and sighed softly. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3151. The dimensional passageway is like a bridge. Fanzu explained patiently. It can withstand gravity. The weight that the dimensional passageway can hold is the strength of the cultivator's energy. When the strength of the energy in the dimensional passageway exceeds its capacity, it will be in danger of shattering. Once it shatters, all the cultivators in the dimensional passageway will lose the protection of the dimensional passageway's energy and be lost in the dimensional space. In the dimensional space, energy will be consumed. Once it's exhausted, it will die. Fanzu said calmly. With the strength of a world lord, the chances of finding another dimensional world to enter before they die are very slim. Simply put, once the dimensional passageway shatters, all the experts in the passageway will die, including you, me, and the Nether Sha experts. The Taichu cultivators fell silent. Compared to the enormous dimensional space, these top experts who dominated the Hongmeng Sea were very insignificant. What about the Zergs? Lin Feng asked suddenly. Zergs? They can eat almost anything. Although they can't digest dimensional energy, there are other things in the dimensional space other than dimensional energy that allow the Zergs to maintain their functions without any problems. Moreover, they have a natural forging ability. It's easy for them to find dimensional worlds, Fanzu said. The expert sighed. This foodie race was indeed gifted. Even in the dimensional world, they were unique. Lin Feng understood. So the four origin chaotic universes each guard a dimensional passageway. When we occupy half of the dimensional passageway's weight, it will be difficult for the Nether Sha race to attack us. It was like a tug of war on a single plank bridge. The Taichu side occupied half of the bridge's weight, or even more. It would be difficult for the Nether Sha race to win. If there were too many experts standing on the bridge, the single plank bridge would break. In such a situation, the defending side would always have the advantage. So for 100 eras, the Nether Sha race has been strengthening the dimensional passageway. Now, the first dimensional passageway's weight has reached 1,000 viral. Fanzu said, the Grand Simplicity experts led by the Chaos Dao Lord and the Thousand Blood Empress have almost all come out to resist. 1,000 viral? What's that? Lin Feng asked. Viral is dimensional energy. Fanzu said, in terms of energy intensity, the standard for Pinnacle Universe Masters is 1 viral, Ultimate Universe Masters are 10 viral, and World Masters are 100 viral. So 2 World Masters are equivalent to 200 viral? Does Grand Simplicity have that many Ultimate Universe Masters? Lin Feng was puzzled. No matter how he calculated, the Grand Change origin was less than half of 1,000 viral. 500 viral. Grand Simplicity has 12 Ultimate Universe rulers and 56 Pinnacle Universe rulers. Fanzu said, this is just the standard viral. Even the same Ultimate Universe Masters have different levels of power. Some might be at 10 viral, some might be at 8 viral, and some might even reach 15 viral. Also, the Grand Change origin has one of the 2 strongest world masters in the Hongmeng Ocean, Chaos Dao Lord. Just him alone has reached 500 viral. Unfortunately, Chaos Dao Lord has just become a strongest world master. Otherwise, he would be able to reach 1,000 viral, which would be enough to immobilize the Netherkill clan. The strongest world master. After seeing the dimensional passageways and dimensional energy, Lin Feng wasn't surprised that there were stronger world masters. Is the other strongest world master your Fanzu, Senior? Lin Feng asked curiously. Of course not. Ancestor Fan laughed in a carefree manner. His long purple beard fluttered gently as he sighed. If it were me, this calamity would have been settled long ago. He had already become the strongest world lord billions of eras ago. Even if the 5 of us world lords worked together, we would still be far from being his match. Thump! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and a name appeared in his mind. Taisher Guhuang. Lin Feng exclaimed softly. Fanzu closed his eyes and didn't answer, which was a tacit agreement. Back then, during the calamity of Taisher, the 4 Origin Chaos Universes chose to abandon the Taisher Origin Chaos Universe. Military God said solemnly, you should know what happened after that. Lin Feng nodded. Guhuang appeared out of nowhere and forged his name as an invincible emperor in the flames of war. He turned the situation around by himself and quelled the insect calamity. This history was widely spread in the Hongmeng Ocean. Back then, Ancestor Fan and I made this decision together. Military God said. The other 3 Origin Chaos Universes also reached the same consensus. From our standpoint, this decision was not wrong. Even if we make the same decision again, we won't regret it. But from Taisher and Guhuang's standpoint, it was equivalent to being betrayed and abandoned. After quelling the insect calamity, Guhuang sealed the Taisher Origin Chaos Universe and no longer contacted the other 4 origin chaos universes. Not long ago, Thousand Blood Empress sincerely visited, but she was also rejected. Taisher Gu Huang, the symbol of invincibility. The immortal emperor of the Hongmeng Ocean, a transcendent existence who dominated the investiture of the gods. Billions of years ago, he was already the strongest world lord. How strong was he now? Lin Feng could understand the thoughts of the 4 origin chaos universes. If Gu Huang was willing to help, with his strength, even if they fought head-on, he could beat the Nether Sha race back. Absolute strength. Unfortunately, during the calamity of Taisher, Gu Huang broke off with the other 4 origin chaos universes. He was betrayed back then, and now he had no obligation to help. All right. Fanzu sighed softly and opened his eyes. Everyone has their own choice. There is no need to force yourself. His gaze fell on Lin Feng with a hint of admiration. I believe you already know the general situation. What are your plans? You are the hope of the Taichu's future, and you don't belong to any force. Whether you stay or leave is your own choice. I won't force you. And the third-dimensional passage guarded by the Taichu is only the current one, bearing 320 viral. It is still in the controllable stage. Half of 320 viral was 160 viral. A world lord took up 100 viral, and an ultimate universe master took up 10 viral. Lin Feng did a little calculation and knew that the Taichu masters took up almost half of the viral. I am also a member of the Taichu, so I will do my best. Lin Feng didn't hesitate on this point. It was fine if he didn't know, but now that he knew, he couldn't just leave. His life was saved by Fanzu. Besides, the Hongmeng Ocean was no longer a challenge to him. It was rare to find a challenge that could make his blood boil. How could he miss it? And I also want to fight with the Nether Sha race. Lin Feng wanted to know how powerful the Nether Sha race that Fanzu mentioned was. That's easy. Ancestor Fan was very satisfied with Lin Feng's answer. He smiled and said, once you enter the dimensional passage, you should be able to meet the experts of the Nether Killer clan. Ichin, Shalomo, and the rest are just ahead. They are fighting with the Nether Killer clan. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3152. Ichin is a super almighty that our Geo Corporation has painstakingly nurtured. He has admired you for a long time, Lin Feng. The chairman of the Geo Corporation smiled and said, his strength is not below ours. Lin Feng was surprised. Comparable to an ultimate universe master? Ichin is indeed talented. Dalian Palace Master commented and raised his eyebrows. Taichu is the top powerful figure, and he has been cultivated by Egeo. If he becomes a universe master, his potential will be limitless. Ancestor Fan nodded his head in approval and stroked his long purple beard. Egeo brought Ichin here to train him. Although the dimensional passageway is dangerous, he might be able to break through his shackles and achieve extraordinary results. A powerful figure's combat power was comparable to an ultimate universe master. Once he became a universe master, his strength would reach the threshold of a world master. For Taichu, it was definitely a great help. Although he didn't ask, Lin Feng could roughly guess that apart from the grand beginning origin chaotic universe, Taichu should be ranked third among the other 4 origin chaotic universes. This was because Taichu was arranged to be in the third dimension channel. If Taichu was included, Taichu's chaos universe seemed to be the second weakest. Obviously, the dimension channel was allocated according to the strength of the chaos universe. Shaluo and Bone Demon King are Half-Step Sky Swamp Alliance members. Sky Swamp Leader introduced. Just like Ichin, they're training themselves in the dimension channel and fighting against the Nether Sha clan. Including the Pope who just left, the Assassin, Sword, and Candlelight. These are all the experts that are guarding the third dimensional passageway in absolute beginning. Lin Feng nodded. Compared to Tai Yi, which had 2 world masters, one of whom was the strongest, 12 ultimate universe masters, and 56 pinnacle universe masters, Taichu's lineup was undoubtedly shabby. But for now, guarding the third dimension channel wasn't too big of a problem. Okay, shall I enter the dimension channel first? Lin Feng looked at the deep and unknown channel. Through the thin barrier, he could feel the powerful dimensional power. It was calm and powerful. Since it's your first time, let Wen Xian accompany you, Dao Yin Palace Master said. Wen Xian Holy Master smiled and stepped forward. He was a handsome man with curved antennae on his head. His eyes were closed, and he smiled faintly. He bowed slightly to Lin Feng. Lin Feng returned the bow. Thank you, Wen Xian Holy Master. You're welcome. Wen Xian Holy Master's eyes were like crescent moons. Lin Feng did not bring his second brother along with him. Firstly, he needed to raise his willpower and mental cultivation. Secondly, the dangers of the dimensional passageway were still unknown. With the strength of 100,000 Li not being very strong, it was very likely that he would be in danger if he rashly entered. If there really was a fortuitous encounter in the dimensional passageway, it wouldn't be too late for him to bring 100,000 Li into the passageway after he had finished exploring it. With Wen Xian Holy Master accompanying him, Lin Feng didn't have to worry about getting lost in the dimension channel. In fact, he wouldn't get lost. The dimension channel wasn't big, only about 300 meters in diameter. It was similar to a single plank bridge, so it was easy to go back and forth. There are treasures in the dimension channel? Lin Feng felt a sense of novelty when he first entered the dimension channel. However, the dimension channel looked ordinary. It was hard to imagine what treasures there could be. Even if there were, shouldn't they have been taken away? There are naturally no treasures in the dimension channel. Wen Xian Holy Master smiled. But there are in the dimensional space. In the dimensional space, there are countless dimensional worlds. The Hongmeng Sea is just one of them. The dimensional space changes with each passing day, with new dimensional worlds being born at every moment and old dimensional worlds deteriorating, collapsing, and shattering. Therefore, it is possible for all sorts of unique treasures to appear in the dimensional space, including the dimensional space itself, giving birth to all sorts of treasures. Of course, the chances of getting a treasure are not high. Even if you get one, it might not be useful. But as long as you get a treasure, it will definitely be expensive. Although the dimensional energy won't actively attack, its powerful energy will naturally degrade everything else. If a treasure can appear in the dimensional space and not be degraded, its lower limit will definitely not be low. At the very least, it will be at the level of the Hongmeng ruler. Lin Feng roughly understood. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. He was now in the underwater channel. If he was lucky, he could find a treasure floating in the dimensional space. It would be a huge gain. However, this luck seemed to be too good to be true. Has anyone obtained such a treasure before? Lin Feng asked curiously. How could we have such good luck? Wen Xian Holy Master's antennae drooped. Dimensional channels can only be built by world lords. Us rulers of the universe don't usually have the chance to come into contact with the dimensional space. Therefore, everyone treasures this opportunity. If you can obtain some kind of opportunity and break through to become a world lord, that would be great. Even if you don't have a great opportunity, obtaining a treasure to increase your combat strength is also extremely good. Treasures in the dimensional space were of extremely high quality. At the very least, they were at the level of the Hongmeng ruler. That was terrifying. Even ultimate universe rulers might not have Hongmeng ruler's ruler. Speaking of treasures, what is this purple jade amber? Lin Feng immediately took out this piece of purple jade amber. This was a gift from Chairman Egio. The energy it contained was extremely vigorous and was quite compatible with him. This is a treasure that strengthens the heart and willpower of a mental cultivator. Its value is comparable to several Hongmeng rulers' ruler. In the entire Hongmeng Sea, there might only be a single piece. Other than Chairman Egio, there is no other Taichu ruler. Wen Xian Holy Master smiled. Chairman Egio is indeed generous this time. It's not like his style. Even if it's to recruit Lin Feng, you are too generous. Wen Xian Holy Master said casually. He naturally did not care. Even if it was given to him, he would not use it. The purple jade amber was precious to mental cultivators, but to other practitioners, it was far less useful than a Hongmeng ruler's ruler. I owe him a favor. Lin Feng could roughly guess that it was Fan Zhu who had asked Chairman Egio to give it to him. Otherwise, it would not be so coincidental that Chairman Egio gave him a treasure that he desperately needed. Just as when Xin Holy Master said, in terms of a gift, this was too precious. Other than picking up treasures, what other characteristics does the dimensional passageway have? If it was just a matter of luck, Fanzu would not have allowed him to come here to train. After all, the chances were too slim. For more than 100 eras, no universe ruler had found one. No matter how he looked at it, he did not look like the type of person who was bursting with luck. There is nothing special about the dimensional passageway. When Xin Holy Master smiled and said, but there is a dimensional space. The dimensional space itself is a natural treasure trove that contains a huge amount of dimensional energy. Although we are unable to absorb dimensional energy, we can use it to train in the dimensional space and improve our physique, cultivation, realm, and other aspects. Why don't you experience it yourself? Chapter 31:53. All right, Lin Feng was already eager to give it a try. This was the dimensional space, which contained powerful dimensional energy. Since he was here, how could he not experience it? But how do we get to the dimensional space? Lin Feng looked at the walls of the dimensional channel and was momentarily stunned. It's very simple. When Xian Dao Master smiled, and a crystal jade sword appeared in his hand. The sharp sword chi slashed through the dimensional passageway, like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, a visible hole appeared in the dimensional passageway's barrier. In an instant, Lin Feng felt the violent energy gushing out from the broken hole. It was like an existence of the heavens, and it was suffocating. How powerful was this energy? Even if it didn't take the initiative to attack, it could still crush everything. However, Lin Feng vaguely felt a sense of familiarity with this energy. It was only a sense of familiarity, because compared to this surging and suffocating dimensional energy, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. This works too. Lin Feng was a little stunned. Entering the dimensional space was easier than he had imagined. Wouldn't it be the dimensional space after breaking the dimensional channel? When Xian Holy Man smiled and said, although it's a dimensional channel, it's not made of viral. Lin Feng, have you forgotten? That's right. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Fanzu had said before that the dimensional channel was built by the World Lord through his will. It had nothing to do with viral. Sizzle, sizzle. In the short time that Lin Feng and when Xian Holy Man conversed, the hole healed bit by bit. Soon, it was completely sealed and the dimensional channel was reformed. The powerful and domineering viral of the dimensional space was blocked outside. When Xian Holy Man said, the Nine Hells monarch of the Netherkill clan who built the dimensional channel has always been strengthening it. Therefore, the broken dimensional channel will be repaired very quickly. Looking at the repaired dimensional channel, which was exactly the same as before, Lin Feng suddenly had an idea. What if we keep destroying the dimensional channel? When Xian Holy Man instantly understood Lin Feng's idea and smiled. No, this is a dimensional channel formed by the will of the World Lord. The speed of repairing and strengthening far exceeds what we can do. Lin Feng nodded. Although his will had reached the level of a World Lord, his understanding and application of it was far from enough. Pa Lin Feng's right hand touched the wall of the passageway. Instantly, a frenzied killing intent appeared in his mind. He was in a violent and ferocious state of battle. His blood surged, and he wanted nothing more than to immediately engage his opponent in battle. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he quickly dispelled the willpower attack. When Xian Holy Man's eyes were still closed, but the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. He could see Lin Feng's actions. In fact, he had tried to do the same when he first entered the dimensional passage, but he was still embarrassed by the impact of the willpower. This was the will of the King of Nine Hells. However, Lin Feng easily dispelled the impact of the will. It was too easy, so powerful. When Xian Holy Man was impressed by Lin Feng, he had never heard of someone with such a will at such a young age. The will of the King of Nine Hells. Through the will, Lin Feng seemed to see the image of the King of Nine Hells in his mind. It was illusory but real. It was full of killing intent, full of fighting power, and an extreme thirst for battle. This was the dimensional channel. The King of Nine Hells would not deliberately use his will. This was the impact of his will. Let's try again. Lin Feng placed his hand on the dimensional channel again. He realized that this was actually better than the dual polarity tower realm, although he did not need to improve his will now. Chi. Huh. The killing intent came crashing down again. A strong fighting spirit and a shocking physique. The battle form of the Nine Hells King of the Netherkill clan appeared in front of him. Hideous and twisted scars, sharp and fierce energy, and the soul in his body was burning wildly. Will. This is the will of the King of Nine Hells. Lin Feng was very calm in the midst of the will. This time, he did not actively dispel the will. Instead, he immersed himself in it and felt it carefully. With Lin Feng's will and mental cultivation, he was not affected by the will. A faint golden light condensed on the surface of his body. The King of Nine Hells' understanding and use of will was far above Lin Feng. Lin Feng benefited a lot from his will of the King of Nine Hells. The golden body of the universe is the vessel of the power of the golden Hongmeng. The golden soul of the universe is the residence of the soul. The golden heart of the universe should also be the harbor of will. At this moment, Lin Feng understood instantly. Why did his golden will spread throughout the entire universe? It was because his golden heart of the universe was not strong enough to accommodate the will of the King of Nine Hells. The relationship between the two was interdependent and mutually enhanced. Previously, the enhancement of the golden heart of the universe was the effect of the comprehensive strengthening of the Hongmeng golden body. In order to open up and strengthen the golden heart of the universe, one does not necessarily need natural treasures. One can also forcefully open it up with one's own will. Just like the dimensional channel, one can condense the will of the King of Nine Hells into a bridge and strengthen it. Through the will impact, Lin Feng could sense the strengthening of the King of Nine Hells. That feeling was like cheering on a ball or adding bricks and tiles to a skyscraper. The will of the King of Nine Hells condensed into a whole and slowly developed it. Let's give it a try. Lin Feng did as he thought. His right hand left the channel barrier, and he instantly entered a meditative state and entered a state of cultivation. There was a large amount of will of the King of Nine Hells in his body. What Lin Feng wanted to do was to stuff these will of the King of Nine Hells into the golden heart of the universe. The current golden heart of the universe was 55 times. In other words, it could still expand by almost 2 times before reaching its limit. Increasing the golden heart of the universe to the limit of 100 times was the necessary condition to condense the Hongmeng golden body. Failure. Failure. Still failure. It wasn't easy to control the will of the King of Nine Hells, and condensing them into a whole was even more difficult. After countless failures, Lin Feng placed his right hand on the channel barrier again and carefully felt the King of Nine Hells condensing and control of the will of the King of Nine Hells. So that's how it is. As he tried and learned, Lin Feng improved at lightning speed. He learned from it and applied it to himself. Soon, he encountered new problems and new difficulties, and he learned again. Using the will of the King of Nine Hells to build a dimensional channel was undoubtedly a high-level technique. Lin Feng now had a teacher teaching him how to condense the will of the King of Nine Hells and how to use this power. His teacher finished the model and placed it in front of him. He could even tear the model down and see how his teacher repaired it. Boom! Lin Feng's destructive power was very strong. He destroyed the laws of Hongmeng and directly tore down the channel. He stared at the channel as it slowly repaired itself. After much difficulty, the channel was finally repaired. Lin Feng turned around and destroyed it again. He nodded from time to time as if he understood something. Wenxin Holy Man. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3154. Netherkill World. Nine Hells. Ignorant. His upper body was naked, and his lower body was submerged in the light blue cold spring. Cold Spring Hell King's blade light sword shadow was muscular, and his body was full of scars. The corners of his mouth curled up coldly, and he looked at the others disdainfully. The cold spring's energy continuously flowed into Blade Light and Sword Shadow's body. A dimensional passage could be clearly seen opening up from the depths of the cold spring. The transparent light isolated the cold spring and seemed to devour the surrounding space. The third-dimensional passage was created by Cold Spring Hell King's Blade Light Sword Shadow. The first-dimensional passage was the most difficult to build because the exact location of the target dimensional world was not known. However, The second one was much easier. Although the coordinates could not be determined and the dimensional world was constantly changing, knowing the approximate location would undoubtedly make the search much easier. What happened, King? Master Quentin's eyes lit up. Nothing. Blade light and sword shadow sneered. It's just a small fry trying to destroy the dimensional passage and consume my energy. It's just a waste of energy. A futile struggle. Master Quentin sneered. When the dimensional passage opens a little more, the experts of Cold Spring Hell will definitely rush in and flatten this so-called Hongmeng Sea. The gleam of the blade and the shadow of the sword raised their heads confidently. Soon, my blade and sword are thirsting for blood. As he spoke, the Cold Spring's energy continued to be absorbed into his body. Cold Spring Hell King's blade light and sword shadow growled, and his will of manifestation continued to strengthen and strengthen the dimensional passage. In the third dimensional passage, Lin Feng patiently grasped the technique of using the will of manifestation. He could only rely on himself to figure it out. In the Hongmeng Sea, there were very few experts who could use the will of manifestation. Basically, only world lords could use the will of manifestation. Furthermore, it was very difficult to use the will of manifestation to increase one's combat power. Hence, world lords did not spend too much effort on it. Now, it was the best opportunity to learn. It's done. After hundreds of attempts and insights, Lin Feng could already control the will of manifestation. However, controlling it was one thing, and stuffing it into the golden core of the universe was another. The golden core of the universe was full. It was also because it was full that there was a chance to stuff the will of manifestation inside and expand the golden core of the universe. I need to be proficient in controlling it. After grasping the method, Lin Feng tried again and again. Practice makes perfect, and he compared it with the will of the Nine Hells King that he had comprehended to control the dimensional passageway to find his own shortcomings. The process was very long, and it was Lin Feng's first time controlling the manifestation of his will, but the improvement was visible to the naked eye. As Lin Feng became more and more familiar with the technique, he could slowly stuff his materialized wills into the golden core of the universe and condense them into a single entity. Compared to condensing a dimensional passageway to control the materialized wills, condensing the materialized wills themselves was undoubtedly much simpler. I can feel it. Lin Feng could feel that the golden heart of the universe was expanding. Although it was very weak, it was indeed an existence that complemented the materialized willpower. Different from the golden body of the universe and the golden soul of the universe, the strength of the golden heart of the universe was essentially determined by the materialized willpower and his own willpower. Lin Feng's willpower was very strong. Therefore, the golden heart will of the universe had been slowly improving, strengthening along with the improvement of Hongmeng's golden body. Now, it was still rising step by step. 56 times, 57 times, 58 times, the materialized wills in his internal universe were very large, but to condense all of them together, the consumption was also very fast. As the materialized wills were gradually exhausted, the golden heart of the universe once again hit a bottleneck and stopped at 58 times. Purple Jade Amber. Lin Feng instantly refined this mind cultivator treasure. He had already prepared it a long time ago, and now was the best time to use it. It was as if he had been enlightened, and his mind was clear. Purple light circulated around his body, and a huge amount of energy was like a cardiac stimulant to the golden heart of the universe. Lin Feng felt that his willpower had been strengthened by several times, and his senses and control had increased by several times. The materialized willpower that had been stagnant and unchanging was ready to move. Purple light lingered around it, and the materialized willpower became extremely active. It absorbed waves of energy, and the materialized willpower in the golden heart of the universe seemed to have come alive. 56 times, 62 times, 64 times, the increase was incomparably rapid. Under the perfect control of Lin Feng's present will, the purple jade amulet's own energy and the enhancement of the materialized will's energy was enhanced at an astonishing speed. The purple light combined with the materialized will and merged with the golden heart of the universe, instantly breaking through the 66-fold threshold. Under Lin Feng's control, the materialized willpower was absorbed by the golden heart of the universe. The original energy of the purple jade amber had been depleted, but the materialized willpower in the golden heart of the universe replaced the original effect of the purple jade amber. It even provided more energy to the golden heart of the universe than the purple jade amber itself. Fortunately, Lin Feng had grasped the technique of controlling the materialized willpower previously. Otherwise, the effect of the purple jade amber would not be half of what it was now. After the golden heart of the universe reached 66 times, the rate of increase gradually slowed down, but it was still increasing steadily. At 68 times, 69 times. As the materialized willpower was depleted, Lin Feng also felt that his condition had become a little weak. The materialized willpower was closely related to one's willpower. Finally, the increase of the golden heart of the universe stopped at 69. 8 times. It was only one step away from 70 times. Phew! Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. He was already very satisfied. From 55 times to nearly 70 times, it had increased by 15 times. There was not much left to go before the golden heart of the universe reached its limit of 100 times. Although he had consumed a lot of willpower and the golden heart of the universe was almost empty, the materialized willpower could be replenished and it could also be slowly repaired. Furthermore, this did not affect his strength too much. Dao Venerate when Xian was not looking with his eyes, but with his mind's eye. Although his strength was not as good as Lin Feng's, and he did not have any materialized willpower, he could sense Lin Feng's current state. He was stronger than before. What had happened in such a short time? A genius is indeed a genius. He can break through and improve just by destroying the dimensional passageway's barrier. Dao Venerate when Xian sighed. Comparisons were odious. He had cultivated for countless epochs, but he could not compare to Lin Feng's epiphany when he destroyed the dimensional passageway. It's no wonder that even Fan Zhu values him so much. He is already so strong as a Yuan Venerate. He will be heaven-defying when he breaks through to become an almighty. Although Dao Venerate when Xian was envious, he was not jealous. Everyone had their own path to walk. Furthermore, Lin Feng's strength had increased, so they would have one more helper guarding the third dimension passageway. Although Fan Zhu did not say it, Dao Venerate when Xian knew very well that as the third dimension passageway continued to widen, the pressure on the Taichu's defense would increase day by day. A storm was coming. Soon, there would be a real battle in the third dimension passageway. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3155. The recovery of the will is so slow. After expanding the golden heart of the universe to nearly 70 times, Lin Feng tried to speed up the recovery of the materialized will. Previously, he had taken advantage of the purple jade amber special effect to control the materialized will to expand the golden heart of the universe. Now, he had to bear the consequences. It wasn't easy for him to recover his will. Lin Feng's will was an incorporeal object, and manifesting will was a high-level form of will. Only those who had reached the level of a world lord would be able to do so. As for how to use it, Lin Feng was only a beginner, and he was at a loss. It was completely different from the recovery of one's will. If manifested wills can be easily recovered, the Nine Hells King of the Netherkill clan would have an easy time reinforcing the dimensional passageway. Lin Feng rummaged through his storage space and tried a few treasures that could restore heart force, but the effects of manifested will recovery were lacking. The current method was to use the golden heart of the universe to let it recover on its own. However, filling up the golden heart of the universe would take a long time. Fortunately, it didn't affect his strength too much. Otherwise, Lin Feng would be worried. Oh! Lin Feng's gaze landed on the barrier of the spatial passageway. Sensing the vast and vigorous dimensional energies present outside, he suddenly recalled that he had wanted to go out and experience the spatial passageway. Inexplicably, he began to study the control of will. I'm sorry, when Xian Dao Master. Lin Feng apologized. It's all right, as long as you're happy. The Wenexen holy man's eyebrows curved like crescent moons as he smiled. Did you gain anything? Lin Feng nodded lightly. I've learned a lot. The Nine Hells King's use of the will of manifestation has enlightened me. I've been immersed in it and have mastered the control of the will of manifestation. The Wenexine holy man asked in surprise, Lin Feng, have you mastered the use of will manifestation? A little. Lin Feng didn't know how much he had mastered. Amazing. Dao Venerate Wenexine sighed, in admiration. I can't even materialize my will. You are only a Yuan Venerate, yet you can already use the power of a world master. Lin Feng, are you able to control your will and travel through the dimensional space? Or even condense a will to construct a dimensional passageway? Wenexine Dao Master asked. I haven't tried yet. Lin Feng wasn't sure if he could do it, but it was already very easy for him to control the will of the manifestation. He didn't know if he could use it to explore the dimensional space. As for condensing the will of the manifestation to build a dimensional channel, Lin Feng estimated that he was still very far from it. The Wenexine holy man said, if one's will is able to travel through the dimensional space, the area of exploration will be much larger. Compared to the physical body, entering the dimensional space is not only convenient, but also safer. Fanzu obtained a dimensional treasure because of this. Dimensional treasure? What's that? Lin Feng asked curiously. I've never seen it either. Wenexine Dao Master shook his head. However, they call the treasures obtained from the dimensional space dimensional treasures. They may be treasures born from the dimensional space itself, or they may be from other dimensional worlds. If it's a treasure from another dimension, it might not work, right? Different dimensional worlds had different sources of energy. For example, the treasures from the Hongmeng Sea couldn't be used by the insect clan. The treasures from the Nether Killer world couldn't be used by the Hongmeng Sea either. When Xian Dao Master laughed. Even if it's a treasure born from the dimensional space, it might not be usable. It contains viral, which is powerful enough to destroy everything. However, the quality of dimensional treasures is very high. They are at least at the level of the Hongmeng ruler. Who knows? I might be able to find one someday. Lin Feng laughed. The possibility is very high. When Xian Dao Master nodded, Fanzu said that as long as the will of the manifestation can travel through the dimensional space, if you're lucky, you might be able to obtain a dimensional treasure after 10 million eras. 10 million eras? Lin Feng laughed bitterly. It was better for him to focus on his cultivation. Speaking of which, the Nether Killer clan should have quite a few dimensional treasures, right? Lin Feng suddenly had a thought. According to Fanzu, the Nether Killer clan's lifespan in the dimensional world was nearing its end. The Nine Hells King of the Nether Killer clan had been searching for new dimensional worlds, and the will of the manifestation would naturally be searching. During this period of time, the possibility of finding a dimensional treasure would be very high. After all, it was much easier to find a dimensional treasure than a dimensional world. Maybe, I'm not sure. However, the Nether Killer clan doesn't use any treasures other than their weapons. When Xian Dao Master said, they believe that tempering oneself is the only way to become a true warrior and not rely on external objects. Lin Feng nodded. They focused on unearthing their own potential and not relying on treasures in battle. Their weapons are life weapons nurtured by their unique souls, just like their own bodies. When Xian Dao Master said, it's very powerful. Not only is it perfectly compatible with their bodies, but it can also increase with their strength. If only I had one. Life weapon. Lin Feng sighed. A weapon that could increase with one's own strength was indeed very powerful. However, this was a unique ability of the Nether Killer clan. The cultivators of the Hongmeng Sea, and even those from other dimensional worlds, might not be able to do it. However, even if they couldn't, there were other ways to increase the strength of their weapons. For example, the by asterisk weapon condensation art that he obtained could also strengthen weapons. Oh right, when Xian Dao Master, I want to take a look at the dimensional world. Is there anything I need to take note of? Lin Feng asked. There's not much to take note of. When Xian Dao Master smiled. Just don't stray too far from the dimensional channel. If you feel that your strength is rapidly depleting, come back quickly. Understood, Lin Feng replied. Dimensional energy would not actively attack, but it was incomparably powerful. It would automatically degrade and consume other inferior energies. You and I need to establish a connection to avoid being separated in an emergency. The dimensional world is constantly changing, and no one knows what will happen in the next moment. When Xin Dao Master said earnestly, Fanzu taught us to respect the dimensional world and never let our guard down. We are not from the insect race. Once we are lost in the dimensional world, we may never be able to return. The dimensional world was far more powerful than the Hongmeng Sea. Then how do we establish a connection? Lin Feng now understood why the Daoyin Palace Master wanted an Xian Dao Master to accompany him. It was better to be safe than sorry to prevent any accidents from happening to him. Lin Feng, now that you can control the materialized will, it will be simple. When Xian Dao Master's curved antennae droop down, leave a trace of your will in my body, and you will be able to sense my location. Is this not very good? Lin Feng was a little embarrassed. After all, leaving his will in when Xian Dao Master's body was equivalent to peeking at everything he had. This is the safest method. When Xian Dao Master said, other connections may be severed. Only the materialized can exist clearly in the dimensional world. Lin Feng nodded and didn't dawdle. Thank you very much. When Xian Dao Master smiled, you are welcome. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3156. The dimensional space was mysterious and powerful. After easily breaking through the passageway barrier, Lin Feng did not try to comprehend the process of condensing and restoring his will. Instead, he took a step forward and left the dimensional passageway. He had truly entered the dimensional space. Unlike when he was enduring virile in the dimensional passageway, Lin Feng was completely immersed in the endless virile. The vigorous and terrifying power seemed to want to compress him into particles and control everything like an overlord. Hua! The golden Hongmeng power condensed on the surface of his body. Lin Feng heaved a long sigh of relief. At that moment, he felt that his body was about to collapse. If he did not use the golden Hongmeng power, he would not be able to hold on for long, no matter how strong his will was. However, after being crushed by virile, there seems to be something different about my body. Lin Feng was slightly startled. He felt as if he was being squeezed to the limit again. His original strength had been kneaded into a tight ball, but now there was an even more terrifying force that was fiercely compressing this ball. It was refined again. I understand now. Lin Feng suddenly understood. It was no wonder that Fanzu wanted him to enter the dimensional space. It was indeed a place where he could train himself. Just the strengthening of his physique alone had many benefits. He could temper and upgrade his golden body of the universe. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to continue strengthening his body. His body that had just been ravaged still needed to recover. Suspended in the dimensional space, it was a white void. He could not see or feel anything. All his senses seemed to have stopped. Lin Feng understood that this was because the dimensional power was too strong. If his strength was stronger than the dimensional power, he could easily control it now. However, this was undoubtedly a fool's dream. Will manifestation. Lin Feng tried to control the will manifestation in the golden heart of the universe. In an instant, he focused his mind, and the will manifestation spread out with him as the center. Although he was still enveloped in the majestic virile, Lin Feng seemed to be releasing light in this majestic space. He could clearly see everything around him. The dimensional space was filled with all kinds of energies, but they were completely shackled by virile. This was the power of an emperor, the overbearing power that looked down on everything. He was in charge of everything. Virile was changing, moving, and moving irregularly, causing the entire dimensional space to distort and change, presenting an irregular shape. However, this irregularity was only what he saw, and it might not be real. Lin Feng believed that everything was being manipulated by some invisible force. It was just that his current strength was too weak. The dimensional space was far beyond his level. Dimensional passage. Lin Feng quickly found the third dimensional passageway he was in. Unlike what he had imagined, the dimensional passageway wasn't a straight line, nor was it arched like a bridge. Instead, it was crooked, and even somewhat distorted. It was very unsightly. This was Lin Feng's first impression. Could this be the aesthetics of the Nine Hells King of the Netherkill clan? Just as Lin Feng was thinking about this, he suddenly felt a change in Viral and the dimensional passageway. The two of them seemed to be strangers, but the dimensional passageway had also mysteriously changed slightly. Viral can also degrade dimensional channels? Lin Feng carefully sensed the distorted and ugly dimensional passageway, and he suddenly understood. It wasn't that the dimensional passageway was originally distorted, nor was it caused by the collision of Viral. Instead, the dimensional space had been constantly changing, causing the dimensional passageway to become like this. One side has to be reinforced, and the other side has to be reshaped. It must be difficult for a Nine Hells King. If the dimensional passageway was not fixed, it would become more distorted, and the consumption of the will of manifestation would increase. Having come into close contact with the will of manifestation and being proficient in controlling it, although Lin Feng was still unable to establish a dimensional passageway, his control of the various aspects of the will of manifestation was undoubtedly at the entry level. The dimensional passageway is not stable. Even if it doesn't collapse, if there is a large shift in the dimensional space, or if the distance between the two-dimensional worlds continues to increase, the dimensional passageway will naturally break. After sensing the dimensional passageway, Lin Feng's will of manifestation spread out once again. With himself as the center, the area it spread out was the largest, and it was also the easiest to control. It was different from the dimensional space he had imagined. There wasn't only Viral here. There were all kinds of energies, and they were all-encompassing. It was like a world under the rule of an emperor, with countless races mixed together. However, no matter which race it was impossible for them to pose a threat to the high and mighty Viral. Viral was too strong. It was powerful enough to rule everything. It controlled the order and power of the dimensional space. The distance between me and the dimensional passageway seems to have increased. After sensing it for a short period of time, Lin Feng suddenly realized that his position had changed. Viral was constantly moving, causing the dimensional space to distort and change. It was extremely strange. Luckily, I can still sense it clearly. Lin Feng could clearly sense the trace of the will of manifestation left in the body of the Xin holy man. He didn't need to specifically sense it to know its position. If there was no connection, it would be easy for him to get lost in the dimensional space if an accident happened. Even if he had the will of manifestation. That was because the will of manifestation wasn't omnipotent. At most, it could only be considered as a lamp in the dimensional space, and that was it. If a cultivator without the will of manifestation was lost in the dimensional space, then he would really be on his own. Lin Feng quickly moved to the side of the dimensional passageway. He could clearly sense the location of the will of manifestation so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. He wasn't here to explore the dimensional space. If he didn't seek death, then he wouldn't die. The exploration range of the will of manifestation had reached its limit. With himself as the center, it expanded outwards to search. Although the search range was large, the consumption of the will of manifestation was relatively large, especially since Lin Feng didn't have much will of manifestation and had yet to recover. The recovery of the will of manifestation is also very important. In terms of exploring the dimensional space, the will of manifestation he had was completely insufficient. Although the golden heart of the universe could nurture the will of manifestation, its recovery speed was indeed relatively slow. Or rather, the amount of will of manifestation he had was too large. A door suddenly opened in the dimensional passageway in front of him, and Lin Feng immediately entered. It was very difficult to break open a dimensional passageway in the dimensional space. At least, Lin Feng didn't have the confidence to do so now because of the existence of Viral. Under the suppression of his dimensional energy, all of his attacks would most likely turn into dregs. The hole in the dimensional passageway had already been repaired long ago. Only Dao Master Xin could easily break open the dimensional passageway and open an entrance for him to enter. Dao Master Xin was very important. Many thanks. Lin Feng returned to the dimensional passageway, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. Although it was only a short time, the feeling of being in the dimensional space was very special and also very exciting. His heartbeat quickened. It was a place that he couldn't control at all, a place that was difficult to even survive. Not only him, but even the world masters were the same. Chapter 31:57. How do you feel? When Xian Dao Master asked with a smile. Insignificant. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. He felt like a person who had just learned how to swim and had suddenly entered a turbulent ocean. Lin Feng would never forget that feeling. You'll get used to it after a few more times. When Xian Dao Master said, Lin Feng, you can sense it through your consciousness, but we don't dare to be careless when we enter the dimensional space. If we're not careful, we might get lost forever. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Sensing it through my consciousness won't change much. When Xian Dao Master smiled. Viral is very powerful, right? Lin Feng nodded and clenched his fists. It's a huge boost to my constitution. I feel that my body's strength has increased by nearly 10%. Lin Feng's golden body was 100 times stronger and had already reached its limit. It would be difficult for it to increase by even 1/10,000th. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised that it had increased by nearly 10%. Furthermore, this was just entering the dimensional space. If he entered it a few more times, he could at least improve a lot more. TSK, you're only a Yuan Venerate. When Xian Dao Master's eyes were still closed, but Lin Feng could sense the envy in his tone. When Xian Dao Master didn't hide it either. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't envious of Lin Feng. Lin Feng knew that because he was a Yuan Venerate. Everything had yet to be finalized, including power, body, soul, internal universe, and so on. All the improvements now were the most direct development. When he broke through to become an almighty, everything would explode. Simply put, the stronger and more solid the foundation he laid now, the greater the benefits in the future. Based on a person's constitution, talent, cultivation, and other aspects, entering the dimensional space can improve by 1 to 3 times. Lin Feng, your first time here has improved by nearly 10%. I believe that the final improvement of your constitution will be about 15 to 18 times, when Xian Dao Master judged. That's great. Lin Feng's heart was moved. In other words, his already strong physical body could be improved by another 15 times. It's not just the physical body. In fact, the soul, will, and cultivation can all be strengthened. The Xian holy man said, virile strength is all round. Whether it's the path of ignorance or the path of Hongji, they're all just a small part of virile. Lin Feng nodded. If it was before entering the dimensional space, Lin Feng might not have understood the true meaning of Xian holy man's words, but now it was very clear. Within the dimensional space, there were too many different types of energy. It was the existence of an emperor. Hongmeng energy was just one of the many types of energy in the dimensional world. However, cultivators who walk the way of confusion will reap more benefits in the dimensional space. The Xian holy man said, Lin Feng, do you cultivate the way of confusion or the way of Hong? Everyone, cultivate, Lin Feng said. Impressive, the Xian holy man exclaimed. As expected of a super genius of the Tai Chu, he was an all-rounder. No wonder Fan Zhu thought so highly of him. Given Lin Feng's ability, wouldn't his cultivation in the dimensional space be heaven-defying? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the strongest Yuan Venerate in history. Maybe he was even stronger than the legendary Sea Emperor of the Hongmeng when he was a Yuan Venerate. After the first attempt in the dimensional space, the second attempt was much simpler. Viril's tempering was extremely effective. This was a power that truly dominated everything. Even if it only gave Lin Feng a little bit, it was enough to produce a huge transformation. In fact, Viril didn't give Lin Feng even a little bit. It was just an ordinary trampling, wanton, and crushing, but Lin Feng's constitution was already improving day by day. According to the Xian holy man, one's constitution can be improved by 1 to 3 times. The first time, the improvement is the most, and it will gradually decrease. The first time, my constitution only increased by 10%, but this time, it increased by 40%. The second time he entered the dimensional space, Lin Feng directly abandoned the protection of the Golden Hongmeng power and allowed Viril to wreak havoc. However, This time, Lin Feng persevered until the limit of his willpower. When his physical body was on the verge of shattering, the golden Hongmeng power once again protected him. His physical body, which had been ravaged to the extreme by virile, seemed to have been condensed to the extreme by a powerful force. When it recovered, it naturally transformed. It was completely beyond his expectations. That's right. The Wenxian holy man made a comprehensive judgment based on the 10% I said before, but I didn't reach my limit the first time. When Lin Feng entered the dimensional space for the first time, he had only experienced Virial's crushing before ending his cultivation. At that time, his goal wasn't to cultivate. But now, Lin Feng was truly cultivating and tempering his physical body. The effects of the two were naturally different. It seems that the improvement of my constitution should be higher than the Wenxian holy man's estimation. Lin Feng patiently waited for his physical body to fully recover. Haste makes waste. To better strengthen his body, he first had to ensure that his body was in a near-perfect state. The golden Hongmeng power disappeared, and Lin Feng tempered his physical body again. The third time, it increased by 37%. The fourth time, it increased by 34%. The fifth time, it increased by 30%. The effect of virile was decreasing every time. After all, the universal golden body also had resistance, and a part of it had been tempered to the extreme. The sixth time, the total increase of the universal golden body had exceeded his estimation by 15 times. The strength of the physical body wasn't just about the defensive capabilities of the body. It also affected strength, speed, balance, control of details, and other aspects. The body was the foundation of everything. The cultivation of the Tao of Meng couldn't be separated from a strong physical body. I wonder how Lin Feng's cultivation is going. The Wenxian holy man was actually very curious about Lin Feng's progress. However, because his connection with Lin Feng was one way, he couldn't sense Lin Feng's current situation. Moreover, he didn't manifest his will. However, in the Wenxian holy man's opinion, with Lin Feng's talent, the improvement would definitely not be small, as long as he isn't greedy and doesn't let virile destroy his bodily functions. The only thing one had to pay attention to when cultivating in the dimensional space was speed. Once one reached the limit, one had to stop immediately. One mustn't cross the threshold and let virile invade one's body. This was the power of the Emperor level. If one's bodily functions were destroyed, it would affect one's future cultivation. In the worst case, one would be severely injured or even die. Many of those crazy fellows from the Nether Killer clan have been destroyed by virile. In the 100 eras in the Dimensional Passage, the Wenxian holy man had followed Fan Zhu and the Dao Yin Palace Master to many large-scale battles with the Nether Killer clan. There were also countless small-scale battles. He was the most familiar with the madness of the Nether Killer clan. This was a completely unreasonable clan. They would do anything for the sake of battle and becoming stronger. Bloodthirsty, crazy, fighting clan. Oh, just as he was thinking, the Wenxian holy man suddenly looked ahead. 3 figures entered his sight. They were stable and powerful. 2 were universe rulers, and 1 was a powerful figure. The Wenxian holy man smiled. Have you finished your cultivation? The newcomers were the half-step Heavenly Swamp Alliance, Shalomo and Bone Demon King. The other was the chief powerful figure of the Taichu group, who had been carefully nurtured by the Egyo group. Chapter 31:58. Training in the dimensional space required coordination. Even world masters were no exception. Once lost, the consequences were unimaginable. In the dimensional space, the power of an attack would be reduced by virile. It was like an ordinary person throwing a punch in the sea. The power was not enough to cause real damage. Therefore, there had to be a cultivator in the dimensional space. Firstly, they could act as coordinates to prevent getting lost. Secondly, they could open the dimensional space for the cultivator to enter. Therefore, everyone had to coordinate their training in the dimensional space. Your epic and my epic alternated between each other. Of course, with virile strength, it was undoubtedly impossible to cultivate continuously in the dimensional space for an entire era. Ichin, Shalomo, and Demon King Ashbone cultivated together. The 3 of them cultivated together, allowing the one in the dimensional passageway to take care of the other two at the same time. When they took turns, they would have more time to cultivate, increasing their efficiency. Yes, Ichin walked over with a smile and looked at the other side of the dimensional space. Although he could not materialize his willpower or sense anything else, this was already a habit. Are you cultivating with a Tao Master or a Bodhisattva Tao Master? Neither, when Xin Tao Master answered. Shalomo's voice was rough. Could it be the Tao Yin Palace Master? When Xin Tao Master said, "It's a newcomer." A newcomer? Ichin and the other two were stunned and could not figure it out. When Xin, don't keep us in suspense. Who is it? Ashbone Demon King's little eyes were filled with curiosity. When Xin Tao Master smiled, have you heard of the name Lin Feng? Lin Feng? Ichin's eyes lit up. The Lin Feng who defeated Huang Zun's Investiture of the Gods and Ultimate God Investiture of the Gods and set a series of records. The little Taichu hero? Shalomo was surprised. I remember, he is only a Yuan Venerate, right? Ashbone Demon King curled his tail and suddenly thought. When Xin Tao Master said, yes, he is a Yuan Venerate. However, his strength is comparable to ours, or even stronger. Impossible. Shaluo Mo's entire body was covered in runes, flashing with a dark luster. We were originally pinnacle universe dominators, and after tempering ourselves in the dimensional space, even if we haven't reached the ultimate universe dominator level, we're not far from it. How could Lin Feng be stronger than us? Wen Xin, you're exaggerating. No matter how powerful a Yuan Venerate is, he can't be compared to us. Ashbone Demon Monarch's smile was bony and emaciated. Only Ichin's eyes glowed with a faint desire for battle. Whether or not he has the battle power of an ultimate universe master, won't we know once we try? As the chief almighty of the Taichu, Ichin had long heard of Lin Feng's name. After all, Lin Feng ranked first on the Yuan Venerate leaderboard. However, there had always been rumors in the Taichu that Lin Feng, who ranked first on the Yuan Venerate leaderboard, was even stronger than Ichin, the chief almighty of the Taichu. As a super genius carefully nurtured by the Geo Corporation, Ichin was naturally unconvinced that Lin Feng was comparable to a pinnacle universe dominator when he was still a pinnacle almighty. He was originally a prodigy who was outstanding and unrivaled on the path of cultivation. Ichin could accept that he was not comparable to those powerful universe dominators. However, he was naturally unconvinced that he was not comparable to a mere Yuan Venerate. Let's see if Lin Feng is interested in exchanging pointers with you after he finishes his cultivation. Wen Xin Tao Master neither stopped nor denied it. This was a matter between Lin Feng and Ichin, and it had nothing to do with him. It was up to Lin Feng to decide whether to accept it or not. In his heart, Wen Xin Tao Master also wanted to see for himself how strong this little fellow, whom Fan Zhu regarded as the future hope of the Taichu, was. Potential, great void. Wen Xin Tao Master had cultivated for hundreds of millions of eras and had seen too many talented geniuses with boundless potential. However, they had fallen before they could even become almighties. There were also many who had wasted their time among the almighties and had yet to become universe dominators. Strength was everything. In the dimensional space, Lin Feng was still unaware of the arrival of Ichin and the other two. This place was different from other cultivation grounds. The massive viral crushed everything and required sufficient concentration. Furthermore, Lin Feng did not have the energy to do anything else at the moment. His physical body had to endure the crushing of viral, recover, be ravaged again, and then recover again. It was like an endless cycle that increased the upper limit of his body bit by bit. It was like forging a treasured sword that had to be thoroughly tempered. Lin Feng had not felt this way for a long time. Every time he was close to the limit, he would feel an inexplicable sense of satisfaction and frantically increase his combat strength. 2 times, 3 times Lin Feng had already exceeded the upper limit of 3 times that Wen Xin Tao Master had mentioned. After breaking through to 4 times, he was still slowly increasing his combat strength. However, the amount of increase was much smaller each time. 3 times was not the limit. It was just the limit that Wen Xin Tao Master knew. After all, there were too few examples. Furthermore, Lin Feng was not a universe ruler or an almighty. Unlike universe rulers, who had fully matured and perfected their physical bodies, Lin Feng's physical body was still very malleable. Furthermore, he had been tempered by Viral when he was a Yuan Venerate and had laid an excellent foundation for Lin Feng. It was imprinted into his cells and imprinted into his perfect but immature internal universe. Compared to the increase in his body's upper limit, this was Lin Feng's real gain this time. However, Wen Xindao Master did not know. Lin Feng did not know. Even Fan Zhu did not know. However, just the transformation of his physical body was already enough to exceed Lin Feng's expectations. Lin Feng had spent 100 years to go from 4 times to 4.5 times. Lin Feng had spent an entire era to go from 4.5 times to 5 times. This truly illustrated what it meant to be thoroughly tempered. Inside the dimensional passage, Wen Xindao Master, I Ching, and the other powerhouses were already dumbfounded. What kind of monster was this? He could stay in the dimensional space for an entire era? Furthermore, he did not do anything during this era. He only underwent the baptism of Viral. Lin Feng could actually stay in such a boring and dangerous place like the dimensional space, where there was only a slim chance of survival. If it were not for the fact that Lin Feng's willpower was fluctuating from Wen Xindao Master's body from time to time, I Ching, Shalumo, and the other powerhouses would have thought that Lin Feng was lost in the dimensional space. Apart from Fan Zhu, I don't think any of us universe rulers can stay in the dimensional space for an entire era, right? Demon King Ashbone's thin face was full of surprise. He had a whole new level of respect for Lin Feng. Originally, he had only been curious about what kind of opportunities Lin Feng, a Yuan Venerate, had encountered to have such strength. However, he now understood a little. For such a persevering person, even if he did not encounter any great opportunities, his bottom line would not be too far off. Apart from Fan Zhu, no other universe ruler can do this, Wen Xindao Master said slowly. When Xian Holy Man said slowly, and no universe master would dare to cultivate in the dimensional space for an entire era. I can't do it. Shalumo shook his head. I can't do it either. Demon King Ashbone sighed. I Ching stared at the dimensional passage with a complicated expression. He muttered, I can't do it either. Romance. Chapter 3159. Third Dimension Channel. It's been very peaceful recently. Chairman Egio fiddled with the golden hair on his head, bored to death. The more peaceful it is, the more dangerous it is. Leader Tian Zhe was meticulous as he honed his combat strength. The Netherkill clan is such a warlike clan. If they don't attack for an era, they won't be able to endure. Not long ago, a huge battle broke out in the First Dimension Channel. That's because the First Dimension Channel Viral's capacity is high and has exceeded 1,000 Viral. We're only at 320 Viral. The Netherkill clan won't dare to launch a large-scale attack. Chairman Egio disagreed. No, the Third Dimension Channel has exceeded 330 Viral. Fan Zhu's voice rang out clearly, causing the hearts of the experts to tremble. So fast? Pope returned to the Dimensional Channel not long after Lin Feng left. As one of the 5 super forces, he had the responsibility and obligation to protect the Taichu. Furthermore, he had temporarily left to deal with Lin Feng. Now that Lin Feng had returned to the Dimensional Channel, Pope naturally returned as well. Fan Zhu's figure suddenly appeared. It's not fast. In the initial stages of the Dimensional Channel's establishment, the speed of reinforcement will increase rapidly. This is because the King of 9 Hells is still at ease when establishing the Dimensional Channel. Furthermore, it also depends on luck. If Viral's displacement causes the distance between the 2-dimensional worlds to be closer, the reinforcement of the Dimensional Channel will naturally be easier. So it's getting closer now? The army god's voice was cold as he frowned. If that's the case, the pressure on the 4-dimensional channels will increase. Although the 4-dimensional channels had different starting points, the 2-dimensional worlds they were connected to were the same. The pressure on the 1st and 4th dimensional channels is the greatest. Fan Zhu's expression was calm. However, the 4th dimensional channel has just been established, so there's still a buffer period. However, the King of 9 Hells is the strongest world lord, so the reinforcement of the fourth dimensional channel will be extremely fast. I believe that it won't be long before it exceeds the third dimensional channel. What I'm most worried about now is the first dimensional channel. The first dimensional channel was also established by the strongest world lord. The dimensional passageways built by the strongest world lords were naturally different from those built by ordinary world lords. Regardless of whether it was the virile capacity or the speed at which they were reinforced, the dimensional passageways were inferior. Of the four dimensional passageways, two were built by the strongest world lords while the other two were built by ordinary world lords. In terms of peak combat power, the Netherkill clan was above the Hongmeng Sea. There were 9 kings of the 9 hells. There were only 6 world lords in the Hongmeng Sea, and one of them had already shut himself off and did not care about the affairs of the Hongmeng Sea. It was equivalent to 5 against 9. Whether it was the quality or quantity of peak combat power, Hongmeng Hai was inferior. Right, Lin Feng, Yi Chen, and the others haven't returned yet? Fanzu suddenly remembered that the Netherkill clan could attack at any time. Now, there would be more uncertainty in his cultivation. Not yet, the Daoyin Palace Master said, when Xin sent a message that Lin Feng has been cultivating in the dimensional space for an entire era. It seems that he has no intention of stopping now. An era? All the experts were stunned. Isn't that too exaggerated? Lin Feng can stay in the dimensional space for an entire era? Heroes indeed come from the young. Impressive. Fanzu nodded gently and smiled. In the current tense atmosphere, there was a trace of relief. Lin Feng is a Yuan Venerate, and his internal universe is not strong. Therefore, the pressure on him from virile will be less. Moreover, he is already a Hongmeng gold body. The strength of his golden Hongmeng power is not inferior to yours. Therefore, it will not be a problem for him to stay in the dimensional space for an entire era. However, this is the first time he has entered the dimensional space, and he has been cultivating for an entire era. This child's temperament is really excellent. Fanzu was sincerely happy and satisfied. As the strongest person in the Taichu, seeing such a good seedling emerge from the Taichu, he was moved by the fact that he had a successor. Yi Chen, when Xin and the others are all together. Nothing should happen, the Daoyin Palace Master said. Bodhisattva Dao Venerate is scouting ahead. If there is any movement in the Netherkill clan, he will know immediately. Fanzu nodded. Everyone get ready. The Netherkill clan should be launching a small-scale probing attack very soon. All the powerhouses laughed heartily. They were not afraid at all. Just like before, beat them back ruthlessly. How can the third-dimensional passageway guarded by the Taichu be broken so easily? We are waiting for them to come. We haven't fought in a long time. Fanzu smiled in satisfaction as he looked at the seething fighting spirit of the universe rulers. As long as everyone worked together, they would definitely be able to repel the Netherkill clan and hold on until the final victory. In the dimensional space, Lin Feng's golden body, which had already reached the limit of 100 times, had been forcefully refined and transformed again, increasing it by a total of 5 times. This had greatly improved Lin Feng's strength. Although at his level of strength, one's realm might be more important than one's body. One's body was the foundation of everything. It was the synthesis of many aspects of ability. The more such improvements, the better. 5 times was enough. My physical body has almost reached its true limit. After continuously training in the dimensional space for an era, Lin Feng was now much more familiar with the dimensional space. Even Virile, who looked down on everything like an emperor, was no longer as unreachable as before. This was because he had been dealing with Virile for this era. Lin Feng was safe and sound even when the huge Virile was crushing his body without releasing the power of the Golden Hongmeng. Compared to the sorry state he was in when he first entered the dimensional space, he had changed a lot. Of course, this was only for a short period of time. After being crushed time and time again, Lin Feng's physical body's resistance to Virile also increased day by day. He was used to being trampled. With such a body, when breaking through to become an almighty, whether it is transforming into the Hongmeng Yuan body or seizing the Taichu's will of the heavenly way, it will be twice the result with half the effort, especially seizing. Lin Feng was now even more confident. Seizing the Taichu's will of the heavenly way was very risky. Unlike seizing the seventh universe's will of the heavenly way, the Taichu's will of the heavenly way was a powerful existence that was born along with the Hongmengsi Dao. Seizing its body was extremely difficult. However, after being baptized by Viral, the Taichu's will of the heavenly way seemed to have become less powerful. It was like seeing a vast sea, but seeing a river would not make it seem huge. Now, Lin Feng was even more confident about seizing its body. The tempering of my body is almost over. What should I improve next? When Lin Feng first entered the dimensional space, it was as if he had discovered a new world. The improvement of his body was just the beginning. Just as when Xian Holy Man said, Viral could improve his strength in all aspects. It was like a strict teacher. As long as he worked hard enough, he could continue to improve. Next, improve the universe golden soul. Compared to the Hongji Dao, Lin Feng was more focused on improving the Hongji Dao. Moreover, the strength of one soul directly determined the power of the soul shock. This was one of Lin Feng's trump cards and trump cards. Let's go back and recuperate first. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Chapter 3160. After continuous cultivation, he still needed time to recover. Although he still had a lot of golden Hongmeng power, Lin Feng planned to return to the dimensional passage to prevent Wen Xian Holy Man from worrying. Moreover, he was still in the war with the Netherkill clan. Many things could happen in one era. Compared to cultivation, Lin Feng did not want to miss the battle with the Netherkill clan. He wanted to see for himself this powerful clan that was good at fighting. Whoosh! With a thought, the will of the Wen Xian Holy Man started to ripple. While Lin Feng could not control the will of the Wen Xian Holy Man as easily as Ancestor Fan, it was not too difficult for him to control the will of the Wen Xian Holy Man. Soon, whoosh, an entrance opened in the dimensional passage and Lin Feng entered it. Comfortable. As soon as he entered the dimensional passage, Lin Feng felt refreshed and refreshed. It was the same feeling he had when he finished cultivating in the 100-fold gravity room and returned to his normal state. Viral's transformation of the body was not just a 5-fold increase in strength. It also included the control of strength, the clear feeling of the body, the discarding of impurities, and the tempering of the essence. All these changes laid a solid foundation for the improvement of one's mastery of the Tao of Meng. In terms of mastery, Lin Feng also felt that he had improved. He was like a child by the river, riding on a big boat in the vast sea. His horizons had improved greatly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 4 pairs of eyes looked over. Yichun, Shalumo, and the rest saw that Lin Feng's physical body contained great power, and there seemed to be traces of Viral. Just from the surface, they could clearly see that Lin Feng had improved. Finished cultivating? Wen Xian Holy Man smiled. Lin Feng nodded and looked away from Wen Xian Holy Man. He glanced at Yichun and the rest, nodded slightly and greeted them. Those who appeared here were naturally the experts of the 5 super forces, and they were here to fight against the Netherkill clan. Let me introduce them to you. Wen Xian Holy Man closed his eyes and said calmly, Shalumo, Demon Monarch Ashbone. These 2 are Half-Step Sky Swamp Alliance members, 2 of Leader Sky Swamp's trusted subordinates. This is Yichun, the super genius of the Jiu Corporation and the chief almighty of the Taichu. Lin Feng nodded. Hello. Hello, Lin Feng. Shalumo and Demon King Ashbone revealed friendly smiles. Seeing was believing. No matter how famous Lin Feng was, the 2 half-step Heavenly Grace Realm experts wouldn't care about him. However, after seeing Lin Feng bitterly cultivate in the dimensional space for an era, Shalumo and Demon King Ashbone had already acknowledged Lin Feng in their hearts. Regardless of his strength, at the very least, his attitude and spirit towards cultivation was something that they couldn't help but admire. Moreover, a newcomer who caught the eye of Fan Zhu couldn't be too bad. I'm Lin Feng. I've heard a lot about you, Lin Feng. Yichun spoke cheerfully and wittily. His warlike eyes glowed. When are you free? Let's exchange pointers. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He hadn't expected Yichun to be so direct. However, he didn't care. Lin Feng had never been afraid of challenges. Sure, any time is fine. His indifferent voice and short reply made I Chen's fighting spirit even stronger. Shalomo and Demon King Ashbone exchanged glances and smiled. Their evaluation of Lin Feng had improved a little. A true powerhouse wouldn't be afraid of a challenge. They were very curious about Lin Feng's strength. How strong could a Yuan Venerate be? Now is not the time. The palace master has instructed us to return quickly. When you return, Lin Feng. The Nether Killer race might launch a small-scale attack in the near future. Dao Master when Xin stopped him in time. Although he also wanted to see Lin Feng exchange pointers with I Chen, the overall situation was more important. Now wasn't a good time. There would be plenty of opportunities to exchange pointers. Is the Nether Killer race coming? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Soon, I Chen smiled at Lin Feng. It has been almost 2 epochs since the last battle. The Nether Killer race has always been warlike. They find it too long to wait for 1 epoch, let alone 2 epochs. Let's go back and prepare, Shalomo said. All right. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. Nether Killer Dimension World, Cold Spring Prison. The Cold Spring Prison, one of the 9 hells, had countless cold springs that could freeze even universe rulers. The Nether Killer race members born in the Cold Spring Prison had been baptized by the cold springs since they were young and had been tempered to the extreme. Their physical bodies were extremely tough. At that moment, a group of Nether Killer race marshals, led by a Nether Killer race helm master, surrounded the dimensional passage. A Nether Killer powerhouse with an overbearing aura and boundless murderous intent held a blade in one hand and a sword in the other. His naked upper body was full of eye-catching scars. His greenish-gray skin was overflowing with a savage aura and faintly emitted a pale blue luster. The king of the Cold Spring Prison, Blade Light and Sword Shadow. Little ones, are you ready? Between Blade Light and Sword Shadow's eyebrows, there was a golden mark that resembled a distorted W. It contained powerful soul power and was unique. This was the strongest level of the Nether Killer race's talent of soul ignition, breaking extremity. Only those who had completely comprehended the soul ignition 6 extremities and reached the level of breaking extremity were qualified to become the king of 9 hells. However, not all Nether Killer powerhouses who comprehended breaking extremity could become the king of 9 hells in the end. This was because there were only 9 kings of 9 hells. There was only one way to become the king of 9 hells: kill the original king of 9 hells and replace him. 5 Nether Killer powerhouses who had comprehended breaking extremity had died under Blade Light and Sword Shadow's hands. He was the strongest one. Roar! The Nether Killer army led by Helm Master Quentin, Helm Master Dewey, Helm Master Wuxia, and the other Helm Masters let out an orderly roar. Every Nether Killer powerhouse was full of fighting spirit and high morale. To the Nether Killer race, there was nothing more exciting than a battle. Ha ha ha! Blade Light and Sword Shadow laughed loudly. His aura was extraordinarily domineering. Wherever his blade pointed, it was enough to destroy everything. Then follow me to conquer that weak dimensional world. He stepped in. This was a dimensional passage built by Blade Light and Sword Shadow, so he could enter easily. Behind him, the Nether Killer powerhouses led by the Helm Masters entered in a single file. They were murderous. The 8 Helm Masters were all pinnacle and ultimate universe masters. They had achieved their strength through countless massacres and were extremely powerful. Even the Nether Killer Marshal behind them was experienced in battle and had killed thousands of people. There was no weakling in the Nether Killer race. They believed in the truth of the strong. They believed in endless battles and eternal battles. The strong survived and obtained everything. The weak died. Long. The mighty Nether Killer army stepped into the dimensional passage without concealing themselves. Blade Light and Sword Shadow rushed in front, and his bloody eyes flashed with murderous intent. He vaguely remembered that he had not been able to gain the upper hand in the previous few battles. However, this time, he was confident that the Nether Killer army would be able to crush the dimensional world like a hot knife through butter. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 3161. Lin Feng, when Xin Holy Man, I Chen, and the others chatted and laughed as they walked slowly in the dimensional space. Although I Chen was not convinced by Lin Feng and wanted to challenge him, he still recognized Lin Feng's strength. The same went for Shalomo and Ashbone Demon King. After cultivating in the dimensional space for an era, Lin Feng had completely convinced the other powerful beings. Suddenly, when Xian Holy Man's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed. Although it was only a slight change, it could not escape the eyes of Shalomo and the other masters of the universe. Something happened. In the dimensional space, it was normal for some changes to occur. This was a passageway, but it was also the most intense battlefield. Before Lin Feng's arrival, the four-dimensional passageways had already experienced countless battles. Countless powerful beings from the Minsha clan had died, and many powerful beings from the Hongmeng Sea had also fallen. The palace master sent a message. There are movements from the Minsha clan ahead, when Xian Holy Man said. In the dimensional space, the communication device could not be used for a long time. This was a space filled with virile, and it was only a passageway for the will to materialize. However, there were many treasures in the Hongmeng Sea, and many could be contacted through the will. Finally, they can't hold it in anymore. Shalomo's demonic patterns flashed and glowed. Ga. Ashbone Demon King laughed, and his bones were clearly visible. He curled his tail. I've been waiting for them for a long time. Chen rubbed his palms, and his eyes could not hide his fighting spirit. There is nothing more delightful than to have a great battle with the Minsha clan before sparring with Lin Feng. Ha! Lin Feng clenched his fist. After the transformation, his physical body was full of explosive power. It was the essence of virile. Lin Feng had never fought with the Minsha clan before, and he was full of anticipation. This clan was good at fighting and had the talent of soul ignition. Every member of this clan fought on the battlefield and experienced countless life and death situations. Don't show off, you guys. When Xian Holy Man poured a bucket of cold water on them. You will suffer if you encounter the Cold Spring Hell King's saber and sword shadows. Retreat quickly and meet up with the Taichu masters. Listen to Fan Zhu's command. Cold Spring Hell King Blade Light Sword Shadow, one of the 9 Hells Kings, the Lord of the World. Moreover, he was a world lord who was extremely good at fighting. When Shalomo and the other universe masters heard the name of Blade Light and Sword Shadow, their fighting spirit was instantly extinguished. They hurriedly followed when Xian Holy Man and sped toward the entrance of the dimensional passageway. With their strength, they could barely deal with the underworld lords, let alone the kings of 9 hells. Is Cold Spring Hell King's Blade Light and Sword Shadow very strong? When Lin Feng saw the ugly expressions of Chen and the other experts, he could roughly guess what had happened. It seemed like Taichu had suffered a loss in the previous battle. Super strong. Chen followed closely behind Shalomo, speeding alongside Lin Feng. Even Fan Zhu suffered at his hands. Lin Feng was not surprised. From the fact that Fan Zhu had been assigned to the third-dimensional passageway, he could roughly guess the level of Fan Zhu's strength among the Hongmeng Sea World Lords. Although the kings of 9 hells of the Underworld clan also had the strength of a world lord, every one of them was well-trained. If not for the limited capacity of the dimensional passageway and the fact that Blade Light and Sword Shadow did not dare to unleash all of his strength, Fan Zhu would not have been able to withstand it. Chen sighed. In the previous battle, Fan Zhu was almost injured. This time, the dimensional passageway has been opened for nearly 20 virile. The power that Blade Light and Sword Shadow can unleash will be even stronger than before. The power of the battle will also affect the dimensional passageway. Lin Feng was surprised. Of course, and the impact is huge. Chen explained. Every World Lord standard is 100 virile, but when combined, it is very likely that they can unleash 200 or even 300 virile. Of course, this is only an instantaneous burst of power. Even if it exceeds the capacity of virile, it will not be enough to destroy the dimensional passageway. However, there is always a risk. Furthermore, if it is exceeded several times, the chances of the dimensional passageway being destroyed will be higher. If both sides unleash all of their strength, far exceeding the capacity of virile, the consequences will be even more unpredictable. Lin Feng nodded. For himself, the basic standard virile was almost negligible. However, when he unleashed all of his strength, he could unleash at least 10 virile. The attack viral of a world lord was even greater. So, the underworld clan's attack this time will not succeed? Lin Feng asked. Impossible. When Xian Dao Master's voice came from the front, Fanzu estimated that unless the diameter of the dimensional passageway is more than 500 meters, which means that it can withstand more than 500 viral, the underworld clan will not be able to break through the dimensional passageway. If they insist on attacking, the worst outcome would be mutual destruction. At worst, everyone will die together in the dimensional space. His voice was very calm. Since entering the dimensional passageway, everyone had disregarded life and death. How much viral is it now? Shlomo asked. 340 viral, when Xian Dao Master replied. Lin Feng was puzzled. If they can't succeed, why do the underworld clan keep attacking? They like to fight, Yi Chen replied. When the time comes, you will know when you fight with them. This clan is really crazy. They are all battle maniacs. We have encountered them several times when we were training in front. Don't think of the underworld clan as simple as you think. When Xian Dao Master's indifferent voice came, they are battle-hungry, but they are not stupid. Their attacks are also a tactic to lower our guard and reduce our combat power. Whether it is Universe Masters or World Masters, the Underworld clan has more than the Hongmeng Sea. However, because the dimensional passageway can only withstand a limited amount of weight, they are restricted. Every time they kill a Universe Master, it means that they can fight one more Marshal or even a Hellmaster. In addition, the dimensional passageway itself is constantly widening. In fact, the Underworld clan has always had the advantage. We are just passively defending. Yi Chen, Shlomo, and Ashbone Demon King did not say anything. Although they were not afraid of the Underworld clan, when Xian Dao Master's every word was very direct and to the point. Now, they were barely on par with each other. But what about later? As time passed, the Underworld clan's advantage would grow, unless the dimensional passageway changed. Don't be too discouraged. Fanzu said that there will always be a turn for the better. Nothing is certain. When Xian Dao Master took the opportunity to ease the atmosphere, wasn't it the same during Tai Shi's calamity? Who would have thought that Gu Huang would appear? The cultivators nodded slightly, and their expressions calmed down. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He looked back. When Xian Dao Master also turned his head and saw a red stream of light flying over from afar. He was wearing a red kasaya, and a huge string of pink Buddha beads was hanging around his neck. They were crystal clear and contained a powerful force. Bodhisattva Tao Master? Lin Feng recognized him. Whoosh! Bodhisattva Tao Master flew past, and his voice echoed. Everyone, speed up. The Underworld clan will be here soon. The expressions of the cultivators changed. Chapter 3162. The dimensional passage was not an ordinary passage. It was built by the Nine Hells King of the Nether Killer clan using his will. If the cultivators of the Hongmeng Sea made any unusual movements, the Nine Hells King would be able to sense it. However, if the Nether Killer clan made any unusual movements, it would not be easy for the powerhouses of the Hongmeng Sea to sense it. Excluding the will of the Nether Killer clan, this was a dimensional space filled with viral. Even Fanzu would be at his wit's end here. As a scout, Bodhisattva Holy Man used some special techniques to monitor the movements of the Nether Killer clan. However, all the techniques here could be broken because he was facing the Nine Hells King of the Nether Killer clan. This time, Bodhisattva Holy Man's markings were all destroyed. Although these special techniques could not sense the Nether Killer clan, the destruction of the markings was solid proof. When 5 of the markings were destroyed, Bodhisattva Holy Man immediately retreated and sent a message to Dao Yin Palace Master. The Nether Killer clan was here. The dimensional passage was only carrying 340 viral, and the 2 world lords occupied 200 viral. Moreover, the accumulation of their normal attacks would exceed 300 viral. Just as when Xian Holy Man said, it was impossible for the Nether Killer clan to break through the Taichu's defenses in one fell swoop. However, this did not mean that they would stop attacking. The Nether Killer clan wanted to weaken the fighting spirit of the Taichu cultivators with repeated attacks. They wanted to destroy the enemy's defense line through repeated killings. For the Nethersha clan, Even if they didn't actively attack their enemies, there would be endless slaughter in the Nine Hells. Just the Cold Spring Hell King alone had killed as many as 5 Challenger in training who had reached the level of a World Lord. Led by Cold Spring Hell King Blade Lightsword, Hell Master Quinton, Great Abyss Hell Master, Dark Slaughter Hell Master, and the other 6 Hell Masters led more than 50 Netherkill Marshals and rushed over. Another 2 Hell Masters led hundreds of Netherkill Marshals and stood guard outside the Dimensional Passage, waiting for reinforcements at any time. The lineup of the Netherkiller clan was stronger than the previous attack. An additional 20 units of dimensional energy could allow them to bring 2 more prison overlords or several dozen marshals with them to battle. But on the Taichu's side, the experts were still the same. Fan Zhu, who occupied 100 virile, and the leaders of the 5 great powers, the 5 ultimate universe rulers, occupied 50 virile. The remaining universe rulers did not even have 10 virile. Almighties like Yi Chen and Yuan venerates like Lin Feng could be ignored in terms of virile. In terms of base virile, the Taichu occupied less than 160 virile, while the Underworld clan occupied more than 180 virile. Both sides had mobilized the largest forces they could send. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Following closely behind the Bodhisattva Tao Master, Yi Chun and the rest of the cultivators who had been chatting casually as they hurried on their way were now working hard to overcome the resistance of the dimensional passageway. No one was willing to fall behind. What a joke. Behind them was the Netherkiller clan's army. Before Fan Zhu and the other experts arrived, if they bumped into them, the Netherkiller clan experts would not even need to act. They could just break open the dimensional passageway and enter the dimensional space. Lin Feng can still keep up? This kid is impressive. When Xian Dao Master, Shalomo, and Ashbone Demon King were rather surprised. It was already very difficult for Yi Chun to keep up with them. After all, he was only an almighty. His physical fitness and internal universe were different. This place was different from the Hongmeng Sea. The Hongmeng Sea had a speed limit, but the dimensional space did not. However, Lin Feng was only a Yuan venerate. How could he keep up with them? It's okay to be a little slower, Lin Feng. When Xian Dao Master's voice was heard, the Netherkiller clan won't be able to catch up so quickly. If we consume too much energy now, it will be troublesome when the battle starts. Although they were hurrying on with all their might, they did not use 100% of their speed. After all, there would be a fierce battle soon. I can still do it. In fact, Lin Feng was not using his full strength either. If it had been before entering the dimensional space, it might have been difficult for him to catch up. However, this time, Lin Feng was strengthened by 5 times. Coupled with his body's adaptation to the virile, not only did he not use his full strength, but he also did it effortlessly. Even a little faster was fine. Lin Feng's body was not weak to begin with. The golden body of the universe was 100 times the limit, coupled with a perfect internal universe. And this was a dimensional passage built by the manifestation of willpower. Lin Feng also had the manifestation of willpower. All right, when Xian Dao Master smiled, he had underestimated Lin Feng. He naturally did not suspect that Lin Feng was putting on a brave front. If Lin Feng was hurrying on with all his might, it would be difficult for him to even speak. Swoosh! The Taichu cultivators streaked across like shooting stars. It had to be said that after knowing that there was a Netherkiller clan army behind them, their speed had indeed increased to the maximum. On the other side, the powerhouses led by Fan Zhu had also entered the dimensional passage to set up a defense. It was impossible to fight at the entrance of the dimensional passage. That would make it easy for the Netherkiller clan to take advantage of the situation. Furthermore, they had to set up restrictions or arrays behind the dimensional passage to prevent the Nine Hells Monarch from stealing the chicken. If the Nine Hells Monarch passed by halfway during the battle and went straight to the entrance, no one would be able to catch up. They're here. Fan Zhu had set up the 9 Songs Jin Luo array early in the morning and was waiting for the Netherkiller clan. Behind him, Army God, Pope, Chairman Yi Jiao, Dao Yin Palace Master, and Leader Tianze were on full alert. The strength of Ultimate Universe Masters was undoubtedly on full display. As the Taichu's strongest combat power apart from Fan Zhu, Every battle with the Nether Killer clan was equally stressful. Normally, they would have to fight against Hell Masters whose strength was similar to theirs. Besides, they also had to face a large number of Nether Killer clan marshals. After all, there were not many Pinnacle Universe Masters guarding the Taichu. Two half-step Heavenly Swamp Alliance Masters, Shalumo and Demon King Ashbone, came from the Sky Swamp Alliance. Three Heavenly Master Dao Masters came from the Daoyan Palace, Wuji Master, Wen Xian Dao Master, and Bodhisattva Dao Master. Two Protectors came from the Taichu Inquisition, Sword Killer Protector and Candlelight Protector. The army had to guard the Taichu against the Bug Clan, so they didn't send the first and second marshals. As for the Egyo group, two came. One was a powerful being, Ichun, and the other was Vice Chairman Hujia, but unfortunately, they were killed in the battle with the Nether Killer clan. Now, there were only 9 Taichu below Ultimate Universe Masters, including Lin Feng, which was quite a small number. Lin Feng, the Pope wore a mask of calmness on his face, but his heart was in turmoil. Seeing that Lin Feng was safe and sound, he was furious. Previously, when he tried to deal with Lin Feng in the Taichu, he had suffered a double loss. After waiting for Lin Feng to enter the dual pole tower sector, he was still thinking about how to deal with him, but he didn't expect Lin Feng to come straight to the Dimension Tunnel. It was undoubtedly more difficult to kill him now. Fortunately, they're all back. Daoyan Palace Master smiled. Gather all our strength and fight the Nether Killer clan. Egyo Group leader was in high spirits. The Nether Killer clan is almost here. Leader Tianze's voice was low and cold. I can already smell them. It's very strong, and they're right behind Lin Feng, Ichun, and the others. Everyone, get ready. Fanzu's voice was heard. Chapter 3163. The Nether Killer clan had arrived. They were right behind Lin Feng. Even though there was still some distance between them, Lin Feng could already feel the surging killing intent and battle intent. Fortunately, the Taichu experts had already come to greet them and set up an inescapable trap. Ta! 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 Ichin and the other experts had just stepped in. Chi! Before they arrived, the Saber Radiance and Sword Aura had already arrived. The immense power seemed to be able to destroy the dimensional passageway. The Saber Will and Sword Aura whizzed over. Fanzu had already made his move. The 9 Bends formation instantly changed and enveloped Lin Feng and the rest. The 9 Bends formation, the dominating Hong Meng's source item. Fanzu floated in the air with his long purple beard curling around him. His hands condensed enormous Hong Meng energy. He became one with the formation and connected perfectly. Clang! Clang! The Saber Radiance and Sword Aura were blocked outside, but the arrogant laughter of the Demon Clan could be heard from afar. It was as if he was looking at a group of ants and showed disdain for the Taichu experts. The newcomer held a sword in one hand and a saber in the other. Both were his natal weapons. They emitted a light blue glow and were extremely similar to the Cold Spring. The 9 hells of the Nether Killer world each had their own unique characteristics. The Nether Killer clan experts in the Cold Spring hell could not only train their physique through the Cold Spring, but they could also nurture their natal weapons. I'm here again, Fanzu. The Saber Radiance and Sword Aura were naked from the waist up. The scars on his body were striking. He laughed freely and arrogantly. It was as if he did not take Fanzu seriously at all. Behind him, the group of Hell Masters and Marshals were like fiends. Their eyes were filled with endless killing intent. They were only waiting for their king to give the order to attack. So powerful. Lin Feng, Ichin, Wenxin Holy Man, and the rest were enveloped by Fanzu's 9 Bends formation. This was the first time Lin Feng had seen a Nether Killer clan expert and the king of the 9 hells. Just by holding the saber in his hand, he could feel the boundless saber intent emanating from it. Lin Feng didn't need to fight to know that the 9 Hells King's Saber Light and Sword Shadow Saber technique had reached a very high level. Similarly, the sword in his other hand was also filled with Sword Chi, which wasn't any weaker than the saber intent. His grayish-green skin was covered with marks that resembled demonic patterns. The smile on his face was full of confidence and fighting spirit. Just by standing there, he had already suppressed all the experts on the Taichu's side, including Fanzu. Come, Fanzu's endless Hongmeng energy swirled around him. He was not a world lord who walked the path of Hongmeng. What he cultivated was the path of Hongmeng. With a wave of his hand, the level 8 Hongmeng law order was unleashed. It combined perfectly with the 9 Bin's golden fall array, greatly increasing the power of the array. The 9 Bin's golden fall array condensed the power of Hongmeng. 9 rays of light of different colors appeared, like 9 soaring dragons. However, at this moment, Saber Light and Sword Shadow's power had already completely exploded. With a roar, his skin seemed to be burning, and even his life weapon was ringing. Soul Ignition Talent 6 Extremes. The 5th Extreme, Soul Flame. The black gold light was like an armor that covered the surface of his body. It was filled with dense, netherworld energy. This was the 3rd level of the innate talent, Soul Ignition, entering the netherworld. Compared to the 1st level, Strengthening, which increased one's strength, the 2nd level, Golden Body, which increased one's defense and speed, the 3rd level, entering the netherworld, was more balanced in all aspects. As for the 5th level, Soul Flames, it would produce a powerful strength unique to each Netherkill expert. Soul Flame Ice. Like the fusion of fire and ice, the light blue light not only covered Saber Light and Sword Shadow's dark golden armor, but also his life weapon. As the king of the Cold Spring Prison, Saber Light and Sword Shadow naturally possessed the strongest power in the Cold Spring Prison. Pong. The moment Fanzu's 9 Bin's dragon came into contact with Saber Light and Sword Shadow's sword, it was instantly frozen by the terrifying cold air. The Netherkill expert's netherworld energy exploded, directly shattering the 9 Bin's dragon. The fate of the other 9 Bin's dragon was the same. When it was frozen by the cold air of the Warblade, it was destroyed by the explosion of netherworld energy. A total of 9 Bin's dragons. It swallowed and spat out primordial chaos power as it wrapped around the saber beams and sword shadows. However, it could not break through the saber beams and sword shadows' dark golden armor. It was formed from pure netherworld energy and the burning of one soul to enter the netherworld. Its defensive strength was not considered strong, but the saber beams and sword shadows were constantly attacking. They would not allow the 9 Melody dragons to attack. Furthermore, the physical strength of the Netherkill expert was not bad. Saber Light and Sword Shadow, in the state of Soul Flame, could not only use their unique innate skill, Ice, to attack, but also had Ice protection for defense. Fanzu, in a defensive state, relied on the advantage of the array and the control of Hongmeng's laws to remain as immovable as a mountain. Although the 9 Bin's dragons were continuously killed by Saber Light and Sword Shadow, and the 9 Bin's Golden Fall array was like a dilapidated fortress with its defenses broken again and again, it was orderly and methodical. 9 Bin's dragons were born from Fanzu's body and joined the battlefield. The places where the 9 Bin's Golden Fall array had been destroyed by Saber Light and Sword Shadow were slowly mending, just like dimensional passageways being repaired. They knew each other's backgrounds and were old rivals. Although Fanzu was not a match for Saber Light and Sword Shadow, it would not be easy for Saber Light and Sword Shadow to kill Fanzu. Laughing loudly, Saber Light and Sword Shadow were having a great time fighting. The golden twisted W in between his eyebrows was especially eye-catching. Under the support of the Soul Flame, it emitted a dazzling light. This was the mark of the 9 Hells King, and it was the symbol of the Netherkill expert who had comprehended the 6th level of the Soul Ignition. Breaking Extremity. However, Saber Light and Sword Shadow clearly did not intend to use Breaking Extremity for the time being. They waved their sabers and swords in both hands, wreaking havoc on Fanzu's defenses. It did not feel like they were fighting at all, but more like they were toying and playing. However, Fanzu was powerless to counterattack. Little ones, attack. Saber Light and Sword Shadow broke Fanzu's 9 Bin's Golden Fall array amidst his loud laughter. Helm Master Quinton, Grand Helm Master, Crow Slaughter Helm Master, and the other Helm Masters took the lead. They also used their innate skill, Soul Ignition, and the light of Soul Flame covered their bodies. Every Netherkill Helm Master must have comprehended the 5th level of the innate skill, Soul Ignition. Compared to the Underworld Prison Master's ferocious battle intent, The dozens of underworld marshals behind him were incomparably crazy. Their eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent, and they were blood-red. Their muscles bulged, and underworld energy leaked out in all directions. As they roared, they charged toward the Juku Jinluo formation like monsters. They had yet to comprehend Soul Flame, so they used the fourth level of the innate skill, Soul Ignition, which was brutal. They were bloodthirsty, brutal, and crazy. They could increase their power to the extreme. Whether it was with strengthening, golden body, or entering the underworld, they could unleash extraordinary power. Dozens of killing machines rushed in, and the momentum of the Netherkill clan reached its peak. Like a storm, they destroyed the 9 Ben's Golden Fall array. Everyone, take your respective positions. The voice of the army god rang in the ears of every Taichu cultivator. Instantly, 5 figures rushed out in a line. They were the 5 ultimate universe masters of the Taichu race, and they charged into the Netherkill array. The group of Pinnacle Universe Masters led by Wu Ji Master, when Xian Dao Master, and Bodhisattva Dao Master followed closely. It's starting. Lin Feng instantly entered battle mode. Chapter 3164. The 5 Ultimate Universe Masters shot out in 5 different directions. They didn't specialize in dealing with any Helm Master from the Nether Killer clan, as there was a difference in their numbers. Besides, the Nether Killer clan's marshals weren't to be underestimated either. When they executed Soul Ignition, Brutality, together with their own abilities, they were still able to kill Ultimate Universe Masters. 8th level Hongmeng Law Perfection, Order. Ancestor Fan's 9, Ben's Golden Fall formation controlled everything. With himself as the center of the formation, the primordial energy complemented the Order primordial laws. Even though he was in a defensive position, he could strengthen the strength of the other experts within the formation. It wasn't much, but an increase of 20 to 30% was enough to make the 5 Ultimate Universe Masters soar. Lin Feng followed behind Army God because there were no other Universe Masters behind Army God. For example, when Xian Dao Master and Vindication Dao Master were all following Dao Yin Palace Master closely. Ichin was following Chairman Egio, while Shaloma and Ashbone Demon King were following Sky Grace Leader. Secondly, there was a certain distance between them and the Pope's party. Although Lin Feng did not think that the Pope would cause any trouble in such an intense battlefield, it was better to be cautious. The human heart was unpredictable, so it was better to be cautious. Thirdly, Army God was the most powerful of the 5 Ultimate Universe Masters. Under the enhancement of 9 Song's Golden Fall array, he had already reached the threshold of a World Master. What he was facing now was definitely the most powerful part of the Netherkill clan's array apart from the Blade and Sword Shadows. Following Army God was the most exciting. Be careful. Army God's voice entered his ears. It wasn't as cold and solemn as usual. Army God still took care of Lin Feng. After all, the army owed him a debt of gratitude. And just as Fanzu said, Lin Feng was the hope of the Taichu's future. Okay. Lin Feng's world incarnation had already spread out. While the army god was fighting against one of the underworld lords, he was also holding back a few underworld marshals. However, one of them slipped through. Lin Feng knew that army god was giving him practice. If he couldn't even deal with a Nethersham marshal, he wouldn't be qualified to enter the battlefield. His skin was ash green, and his muscles seemed to be exploding. His veins seemed to be on the verge of breaking. He was filled with ruthless nether energy, and his body was dark and gloomy. His body was twice the size of many nether slayers. This was the first of the 6 extremities of soul ignition, strengthening. The second apex, golden body, and the third apex, entering the underworld, were both changes and amplifications of the physical body. Although strengthening was the first extreme, its destructive power was the strongest. However, strengthening had a weakness. While the strength increased, the body's coordination and precision would be harder to control, and the speed would decrease. However, some Netherkiller clan experts liked absolute power and explosive output. This was especially true when paired with the fourth extreme, brutality, which allowed them to unleash power beyond their limits. All the Nethershot experts on the battlefield must have at least comprehended the fourth of the 6 extremities of soul ignition. Brutal. Rip. The underworld marshal's blood-red eyes were filled with madness. His brutality wasn't because he had lost his mind, but because he was in a hot-blooded state of battle. He had raised his killing intent to the extreme. It felt as though his attacks were imbued with the Hongmeng law of massacre. Boom! The underworld marshal's natal weapon was a giant axe. From the first extreme strengthening, it could be seen that this was a nether-shot expert who was extremely obsessed with power. A layer of pale blue light condensed on the giant axe. It was the strengthening brought about by soaking in the cold spring for a long time. With a raise of his hand, the axe fell. The explosive attack directly broke through Lin Feng's small world incarnation. However, Lin Feng wasn't affected. He didn't even use the Defying Mind secret technique. This was just a small test. If he needed to use the Defying Mind secret technique to deal with the Hongmeng Marshal, how would he deal with the Nethersha Helm Master in the future? 10 layers of destruction. The battle saber, Snow Jewel, was surrounded by the power of Golden Hongmeng. It directly broke through the Nethersha Marshal's giant axe and destroyed the Hongmeng Law of Destruction. Not only was the attack powerful, but it was also extremely fast. The Nethersha Marshal's reaction was very fast. The giant axe, which had already fallen, couldn't withstand Lin Feng's saber move. It instantly fell to the bottom of the dimensional passage. The pale blue light froze the ground, and the nether power exploded. Chi! Lin Feng's 10 layers of destruction was instantly affected. The violent airflow was mixed with the impact of virile. With the dimensional passage destroyed, the Nethersha Marshal, who had cleverly made use of the terrain, instantly gained the upper hand. The giant axe didn't seem to have any changes. It directly changed from a slash to a sweep. The blade of the axe shone brightly. Lin Feng could clearly feel the bone-chilling aura. It was as if even his soul could be frozen. Powerful. This was the first time Lin Feng was facing a true Nethersha expert. He was worthy of being a warrior who had gone through countless battles. Although it was his first battle, his opponent's experience and battle techniques were undoubtedly above his. Snow Jewel, Stage 2. The sharp white light transformed into a snow-white divine beast, Ningxiong. The small world incarnation's power was linked. It was the same attack, but the power was different. The Stage 2 Snow Jewel condensed a stronger power of Golden Hongmeng. With Lin Feng's increased strength, it once again faced the opponent's brutal attack. Boom, boom, boom. The Nethersha Marshal's axe technique was extremely exquisite and ferocious. Coupled with the strengthening of soul ignition, his attacks were unstoppable. It seemed as if he wanted to break Lin Feng from the front. In terms of realm, the Nethersha Marshal was far above Lin Feng. The realm of blade techniques was currently Lin Feng's weakest point. He was most proficient in the destruction blade technique. Coupled with the level 6 innate Hongmeng Law of Destruction, he could only unleash its power. However, Lin Feng had created many secret techniques himself. For example, he had created insect emergence and swamp change in the recent era. They were effective against the universe masters of the Hongmeng Sea. The insect race's energy devouring seemed to be the nemesis of the internal universe. Back then, even Pope had to run away. What would happen against the nether race? Swamp change. 2 types of energy erupted at the same time, including the insect race's energy and the Golden Hongmeng's energy. Furthermore, they were 100% merged and merged with each other. It was equivalent to 200% of one's power eruption. This was the attack that Lin Feng was currently very proficient in. He had always been at a disadvantage when fighting against the Hongmeng Sea experts. However, this time, he was at a disadvantage. Whoosh! The Golden Hongmeng's energy was still confronting each other. The insect race's energy invaded the Nethersha Marshal's body, but he ignored it like a clay ox entering the sea. In an instant, the Nethersha Marshal's aura surged. His violent attacks pushed Lin Feng back. At that moment, his attack power increased by at least 30%. Lin Feng's great world incarnation was protecting himself. He did not expect that the insect race's energy would only be effective against the Hongmeng Sea cultivators. As this thought flashed past his mind, Lin Feng attacked again and used swamp change again. The result was exactly the same. As the insect race's energy entered his body, The Nether Shah Marshal's blood-red eyes became deeper. His bulging muscles became even more violent. With a loud roar, his attack power increased and forced Linfeng back. What? The Nether Shah race can absorb the insect race's energy? Linfeng was shocked.